just do it. Stand behind what you believe in. If you want to do that, then do it. Right. Don't fucking talk about it. Don't dream about it. Do all that, but then back it up and do it. You know, a lot of people are too scared to just get out there and try. I know because I'm that way with certain things, but that's just going to leave you as an older person thinking back and wondering what the fuck if. And I do not want to do that.
Welcome to Get After It. My name is John Kay, and I'm a professional musician, record producer, and lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I interview an inspiring person with a powerful message to help you discover how to realize your true potential and become your most authentic self through positive intention and purposeful action. I'm truly grateful to anyone hearing this right now, so thank you for listening, and let's get started. Today's episode of Get After It features Matt Puhy, drummer for the band Wilson, a fast-rising hard rock band from Detroit who recently toured with Breaking Benjamin. I've known Matt since he first joined Wilson, and he is a beautiful example of what great things may come to us through the values of sacrifice, measurable growth, accountability, a reputation for excellence, time, intensity, and respect. Matt is an excellent drummer and attended the Berklee College of Music to hone his percussive skill set. He practices diligently and purposefully and is as reliable behind the kit as some of the best drummers I've had the fortune to meet. But he does not let this go to his head, and he remains humble and respectful, always. So, why don't we get down to the nitty-gritty with Mr. Matt Puhy right now? What do you say? Let's get after it.
All right. Here with Matt Puhy, the drummer and professional whiskey drinker for Wilson.
Appropriate name.
Yeah, you just got back from some shows this weekend. We were in Port Huron, Michigan. You said it was a family thing?
Yeah, it was a family night for boat weekend, some kind of boating thing.
All right.
And, they had the main street all shut down, and we played the main stage there. It was an interesting day, to say the least.
Well, why do you say interesting?
To start off, when we were loading in and kind of getting sorted out, the monitor guy was having some difficulty, so we were running drastically behind schedule. And the first act to come up was this like student band, like a marching band kind of thing.
A marching band?
Something like that. Not exactly an orchestral band, I guess, would
Okay.
be a more appropriate name. So we're sound checking, and it's running over, and these kids are kind of nervous, so they just like start setting up on stage while we're still there, like sound checking, and it's maybe like a 30-person orchestra.
Okay.
And I'm the only one really seeing it because the rest of the dudes are like facing, towards the monitor board or out to front of house, so they had no idea really what was going on, and they were kind of getting frustrated, so they didn't know. And they turn around, and there's these like 30 kids, like all their chairs and instruments set up. I think Chad almost knocked over like a tenor sax player.
And this is while you're playing?
While we were sound checking.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish it was while we were playing.
That would be hysterical.
So yeah, that was a pretty interesting way to start the day, but it was a really, really fun festival. It's Chad's hometown too.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chad's from Port Huron. None of you, rest of you guys are from Port Huron, right?
No.
Right on. Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, to that point then, take us back. Okay, where'd you grow up? What were like the socioeconomic conditions of where you were raised? What'd your mom and dad do?
I was raised in like West Bloomfield, right outside of Pontiac, and the area is suburban, kind of more on the rich side of things.
All right.
We're right next to Kego Harbor, which was basically, a polar opposite, but it was a really interesting area because my parents, who are a little more on the old school side, you had to work and earn everything when you were growing up. Those were values that they instilled in us right from the get-go. And in that area, a lot of those kids were just given whatever they want. They would turn 16 and their first car would be like a Mustang.
Wow.
I bought my first car. I couldn't afford it till I was 17, and I bought it for $600 off my grandpa. It was this like 1989 Chrysler New Yorker, like this Cutlass Fogey Mobile. So that gives you an idea of the way I was raised. But yeah, in that area, it was weird.
Yeah, what was so weird about it though?
I guess it's just the way a lot of those kids were raised with that kind of silver spoon, and they just expect
The entitlement mentality.
whatever. Yeah, and they don't have to worry about money. They don't think about it. All they think about is, whatever their social status is or whatever.
Because you're 30...
31.
You're 31. Okay, so you are technically a millennial then.
Yeah.
All right. So it's got to be... I want to say humbling, I guess, for you to come up through that and see that dichotomy of you versus the other class. So what was school like for you then?
I mean, the high school we went to was amazing. It had a lot there.
As far as amenities and whatnot?
Yeah, as far as arts go, to be more specific, I was really into photography. They had a full program there.
Your brother does photography,
yeah,
right? He goes on the road with you guys from time to time.
Yeah, he's come out with us a couple times. He's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
he's what got me into it. Before I went to music school, I actually wanted to go to the photography school that he went to.
Okay.
But that's a horse of a different color.
No, that's cool. We're talking. So they had a lot of arts programs and stuff.
Yeah, so it was great in the fact that when you're in an area like that and there is a lot of money, it allows you to really take advantage in a positive way from a learning aspect. So I had a lot of music classes that I could, take advantage of. They had a digital music class there, which was like, not a lot of schools.
So you had your class of 03?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, as far as the education aspect goes, it was really great to be at a place like that. The social situation was really interesting, as I'm sure it is at most schools, but there are 2,500 people in that high school.
Wow.
So it's a big fucking school.
What school is this?
West Bloomfield High School.
Okay. All right.
So, already having that many kids, and at that age mushed into one building is like, it's a really interesting thing to see, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't just like little cliques of every different kind of thing.
Right.
It was huge groups,
Gotcha.
Of every little, thing.
Right.
So it was just a really weird way.
Large class sizes too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very big.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Some of the arts classes were a little bit smaller, but the main classes were 40, 50, 60 kids.
What teacher impacted you the most in your high school?
God.
I know it's been a long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to... My math teacher, Miss Shalal, I guess.
Shout out to Miss Shalal. Right
yeah,
on.
big ups. She was just a sweetheart, and I don't know. I just
cool.
got along with her really well for some reason.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So when I set up these interviews, when I bring people in, when I prepare for the podcast, I always Google the name of whoever I'm interviewing, just to see what comes up, right? And we had Jim Doyen in here from Ink Addict, and I Googled his name, and the first thing that comes up is the detective who caught the Green River Killer out in Seattle, right? Well, when I Googled Matt Puhy, and my first thought was either you are the only Matt Puhy that exists in the world, or whoever is managing your SEO for the band is on point, because the whole first page on Google is everything about you, and then the second page, everything's about you. I'm like, all right, this makes my search a lot easier. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't too many Puhys out there to begin with, and as far as I know, I'm the only Matt Puhy.
Right on. Right on. When and how did you discover that you wanted to be a drummer?
I was 9 years old, and the neighborhood I grew up in, all the kids I hung out with were like 3 or 4 years older. So they're in middle school at the time, and they wanted to start a band. And they were like, hey, do you have a drum set? And I lied and was like, yeah, no, I got one. It's just up in the attic. I can't get to it yet. So my first drum kit was actually a series of pots, pans, and buckets for about the first 6 months. And then they kind of started to get a little irritated. They were like, dude, I mean, it's in the attic. Just go up there and get it. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go back home and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, whatever. Talk to my dad about it. And he's like, your uncle has a drum set, right? I was like, well, I do now. Can you call him? And he had this dinky, 1962 red sparkly vintage Ludwig kit. And it was just, it could barely stand up, but at least it was a drum kit. And so he brought it over, sat me down, and showed me my first drum beat. And right after that, I was like, done.
Awesome.
This is what I want.
You still have that kit?
He does. I gave it back to him, but I told him if he ever sells it, he better fucking sell it to me.
Yep, absolutely. 'Cause that's sentimental right there. That's
yes.
awesome, dude.
Yes, it is. Yeah, no, I seriously do remember that moment, right after I sat down and played it for could barely play the pattern, but right after the first couple beats, I'm like, so I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, which is kind of a really cool thing to realize at a young age, too.
This is not any attempt at one-upmanship or anything like that.
Yeah, no.
I discovered that at 2 years old.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've known no other way my whole life, and it's the desire that's implanted in you at such a young age, and you see the possibilities of what it can become if you put the work in.
Yeah,
it's magic.
Yeah.
There's no other way to describe it. It is magical, and growing up now and having the experiences I've had and working with the people I've worked with. It has really brought me to a place where I feel as though the universe reached out and touched. It reaches out and touches people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's the word is vocation, and it's a calling, and it's the universe calling to you, saying this is what you belong doing. So it's great that you got that same feeling just sitting behind the kit for the first time.
I mean, you
felt the power.
Dude, and that kind of pull is just. I feel sorry for people that don't have a chance to get exposed or find that passion in themselves.
For anything, regardless of music.
I mean, I'm saying even at all.
It's a sense of purpose.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people that are searching for something, searching for themselves. And I mean, in a way I do that too, but in the back of my head, I always have had that one thing there that has driven me and always will. And it's I just feel so lucky to have that.
Okay, so I was reading an interview, and you said not being a marching band nerd is one of my biggest regrets as a musician.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
That's 4 years of chops and reading and education that I completely missed out on.
Did you do any school band?
When I was in middle school, I did,
symphony.
Symphony orchestra.
So what? Percussion, snare drum.
Yeah, I was snare drum,
concert
bells,
bass. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, but that was middle school, and then when I got to high school and whatever, I thought I was too cool to do band geek stuff, so I was just playing in bands, and that is seriously a lot of really great drummers that I see, you can tell kit players that they have, those certain kit players, they have marching band experience. You can just see it in their technique.
Give me a
their
for
preciseness. Instance. Let's see. I mean, even the original drummer for Wilson.
Mike McGowan?
Yeah.
I love him.
Dude he's a
teddy bear.
He is.
He's so great.
He's very gooey, and I love hugging him, and he's amazing. But that guy, I would go to their shows and sit right behind the kit and watch him. And you could just tell every hit, everything he's doing is very uniform. He's able to communicate just as well on his weak hand as he is on his strong hand. His posture, the way he writes parts, that comes from those years of, being able to read, write, and do all of that kind of shit that I just biggest regret.
Right on.
So
Yeah, when I was coming up, I didn't have any concept of I knew I wasn't cool. I knew I was a loser. I knew that. But coming up, going through school, it was just any opportunity I had to hit a drum, I took it. I didn't care what people thought of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because you're a great drummer and your chops are great and your focus and the intensity with which you approach the kit is evident when you play, because by the time you get up onto that stage, you're able to do a dance. Yeah. Okay, most drummers I see playing, especially because a lot of the recordings, not even a lot of the recordings, but most of the recordings in your type of music, metal, rock, they're all gridded to put to a grid. And what that is forcing drummers to do now is practice to a click track over and over and be spot on perfect, because a lot of these technical breakdowns and the chugga chugga stuff, if you're not on point with the band, the impact's going to be lost. So, but the thing is I see a lot of drummers who play like that, and you talked about posture. It looks as if they have a large steel spike shoved up their ass to where all they're doing, they're sitting up straight and their arms are just moving around. You're dancing. You're headbanging. All right. And that's something that actually Neil Peart from Rush had to relearn after being in Rush for years and years. He was such a technical drummer, and finally he started taking drum lessons again, and he learned that there's a dance in between every hit, and that there's an economy of motion and movement that you can employ to make your drumming that much more powerful, and not only that, but your showmanship.
Yeah.
So
see, and showmanship is actually something that I had never really tried to learn before I joined the band.
Before you joined Wilson.
I would be playing shows and I'd have these headphones on and I'd be sitting there with my freaking eyes closed and just doing whatever. And I didn't really give a shit about like what I was like, how it looked. I just wanted it to sound good. And then after joining Wilson, that kind of music, there is so much space in between. And I mean, that kind of band is like, you really do have to put on a show. It's it's not just what you're playing, it's how you play it, how you show it, because, rock music in general is like the crowd feeds off of you and how you present it. If you're up there watching a rock and roll band and they're just sitting there, eyes closed, focusing and not moving around, it could sound great, but like there's not that connection. Yeah, when you see somebody up there and they're fucking sweating and they're bleeding and they're headbanging and they look like they want to die, but they're still like having the best time of their life. Yeah. I see bands like that and I'm like, dude, fuck yeah. Like that's exactly what I want to show people. And like I said, it was something that I had to learn once I joined the band. So it's still and will always be a learning experience. And I'm always learning and trying to find a better way to do it. But it's funny because come a long way from sitting there with giant headphones and just not moving with my eyes closed to now almost throwing up because I'm swallowing just gobs of hair from headbanging after every set, dude. Seriously, that's now like, it's a thing now. When I get off stage, I'm like, bleh,
you have a hairball.
I literally have like,
oh my God,
I have to like reach in there and like pull them out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well.
When's the last time your hair was short?
Shit. I was probably still living in Boston, so maybe 2000, somewhere between 2007 and 8. Maybe.
What were you doing in Boston?
I was going to school. I went to Berkeley out there.
You did?
Yeah.
So that was you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
right. I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know you went to Berkeley. So how you were at Berkeley for how long?
I did the full 4 years. I actually went there for a year and then took a year off, moved back home, and was in a band trying to do the whole thing.
Band?
It was called I Kill Jack. It was like this kind of kill switch engage-ish type thing, whatever.
Okay.
So took the year off, moved back home. We moved into a house, tried to do the whole thing. And then 2 weeks before enrollment, I was like, this just isn't working. And if I don't go back now, I never will. So went back to school, did the next 3 years, did summer classes in between, just knocked it out. And it was one of the best things I've ever done for myself.
Right on. So, what? Give me an example of one of the things you learned at Berkeley that completely changed your paradigm about drumming.
I don't know shit.
It humbled you.
Fucking thing.
It humbled you,
dude. The very first day, I walk in there, and the dorms in the basement, they have the practice rooms, and then they have a whole section for drum practice rooms. And I walk down there, and there are these fucking people just playing shit that I didn't even know could be done. And it's these kids that are my age, or maybe a little bit older. And I'm just like walking through there, like I came from a little suburban area, and I was the best drummer in that 20-mile radius.
big fish in a little pond. Yeah,
and it's not that I was like, cocky about it, but it's just
you know your skill set.
The pool of talent was only so big.
Right.
Whereas walking through those rooms for the first time, I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. I don't deserve to be here. I don't blah, 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 blah.
Fears, doubts, insecurities.
Absolutely. After the first week of classes, having to go through and do theory classes and vocal training and all that, I'd never felt more lost as a musician, ever. And this is after already playing for almost 10 years. So it was a really tough pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do with my life. So I've got to do whatever I need to get through it. And it took a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and it taught me a lot about myself.
Okay.
I could do whatever I want to if I want to do it.
If you put your mind to it. And there's that chestnut, that's old. That cliche is old. You can do anything you put your mind to. It's not just about putting your mind to it. It's about you can do whatever you put your work to.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Just thinking about it and trying to will it into existence with your brain isn't going to happen. You need to get your hands dirty. You need to get your body moving and put in the time and the effort and be able to look at yourself in the mirror and go, am I making mistakes? How can I not make these mistakes again? Who can I seek out as a mentor to help guide me and coach me and everything? It's a very you have to be studious. You have to become the student all over again. Even like you said, you're a big fish in a little pond, in West Bloomfield and the surrounding areas. But you get there with some of these upper echelon cats, and it's like, okay, how do I get from where I'm at to where they're at?
Yeah.
And it turns out it takes years of practice.
Oh yeah, and then the work thing that you're talking about is absolutely 100% true, because you could have all the talent in the world, you could be the best at whatever, but it doesn't take just being the best at whatever. There's everything else you need to do to get from point A to B. And I've seen a lot of really great musicians, great bands that they just don't want to put in that extra work, or they don't feel that they need to, or whatever. And it's like, that sucks to see, because it's like, dude, if you guys just got off your ass a little bit, like, you could be doing something really great.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing what I'm doing because I worked really fucking hard to get there.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Yep. So, tell me about the Sugar Skulls drum audition video that you made.
Oh, jeez.
Because I saw that and I'm like,
Wow.
oh, this is pre-Wilson. This is him.
Shit.
This is him going, I'm going to make a video and try to get after
I
it.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, I was into, I can't remember what the song was, but I heard a song.
Starts with an E. That's all I remember.
Yeah. Shit. It might have been it was Sugar Skulls, and then there was one other one. So I was into the band at the time, and they, their drummer left, and I was just kind of sitting there. I just moved back home, and I was like, okay, well, I want to be in a touring band, so I'm going to just...
Envy on the Coast.
There it is. There it is.
Yep.
There it is. Yeah. So, yeah, I was working in a studio in Oak Park at the time.
Which studio?
It was called Allure Sound.
Were you working with Mike Gamble?
Yes.
I interviewed him. He's the second episode of the podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I grew up, with him, but yeah, him and Alex Merzen.
Right on.
They ran the studio. That was whole nother story. But yeah,
Okay.
no, I've known him for a while. I haven't seen him or talked to him in a minute, but
He just
I
came
would
into
hope he's okay.
He just came. We'll get back to what you were saying. He just came into town. Jim invited me to the Ink Addict Booze and Schmooze that they had. North Star Media, David Brisbois' company, came in, and they had an artist that was performing at Ink Addict's shop, and it was like we're only inviting a select group of people. I get invited and whatever, and I go there and I see a buddy Alex Drazen, who used to play.
I know Drazen.
Okay, so you know Alex.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I see Alex.
Oh, yeah.
Can't miss him. He's lurch, but he's got Mike with him.
Yeah.
Because obviously you guys all came up together or whatever, and I never knew Mike, and he's working for a digital watermarking service out in LA now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what he's doing
Yeah.
is not to rehash another episode.
No.
But what he's doing, he works for a company that works with the major labels to digitally watermark every single release that they send out to the press
No
and
shit.
for promo and stuff. So that way, if anything gets leaked,
Yeah.
they can trace it right back to the person
No
who leaked
shit.
it. And then also, he is the one when you go on YouTube and try to play something that's copyrighted,
Yeah.
and it says it's got the frowny face, this has been taken down.
Yeah,
His company is who issues those takedown notices. So once I met him at the thing, I'm like, dude, I got to talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
anyhow, yeah.
Well, I will say this much. I applaud his work ethic. He's definitely,
He's a no nonsense motherfucker.
no, he really isn't. And like I said, I can certainly respect that. I really can, because, like we were talking about work, getting hard work, that dude knows hard work, So everything aside, I'm happy to hear that he's
Righteous. I mean, and dude,
doing his shit.
everyone coming up in the music community, if you're with people long enough, and if you've grown up with them, everyone's got some sort of history with
Oh, of
people.
course.
So,
Yeah.
so what was your capacity at Allure? What were you doing anyway?
Basically, I was brought in to be, they were still building when I got back home, and they built this place up like literally it was completely gutted. So in the beginning, I was in there just kind of helping to build. We had Ken Captain, who is a great acoustical engineer. He does all M&M studios, Kid Rock studios, whatever. And Alex Merzin, the other owner, he is an engineer and works with M&M and all these great guys. So he got, connected with this guy, and he was like, you can't afford me, but what I can do is just kind of stand around, give you advice, and point and shout. So for the first, I don't even know how long, we were just building it, like
All right.
top to bottom. And then I guess what my title was the client director.
Okay.
So if we would bring people in for tours of the studio, or, when we would have sessions in, I'd just kind of be the guy to, either try and sell them on the studio or just make sure that they're comfortable,
Yeah.
kind of build a reputation in a positive way.
Sure.
And use my network to try and bring people in, because we had a relationship with Denon Porter, one of the guys from D12. So he was bringing in a little bit of work, but it was only so much.
Yeah.
So that was my original job title, I suppose you could call it. And I basically lived up there for the better part of a year. And the band I was playing in at the time, we got to use the drum room as our rehearsal space. So
Tight.
I just, I don't think I did a hell of a lot of actual work, because it was just kind of a slow moving studio, but I got carte blanche to do whatever I wanted to musically, which was amazing.
And that pays off. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. So, all right, let me ask you this, just back to the drummer thing. Who would you say are the three drummers who shaped and informed and influenced your playing more than any others
Shit.
in your formative years? Because I know that it changes as you grow up. You listen to different stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
You have new favorites, but as a budding musician, as a budding drummer, who are the ones that you played along to or whatever?
Chris Oquist, who is actually the reason why I went to Berkeley. He played in a band that was around here with some of the neighborhood kids I grew up with, and I'm trying to remember what they called themselves, because it used to be 15-Minute Fame and it turned into this other thing. And this guy was an absolute monster behind the kit. Like, I even bought the same color and kind of kit that he had, because I just was like, dude, I haven't seen a local drummer play like this guy plays.
Right on.
So that was probably one of my biggest influences. shit. If we're talking super early on, man, both the drummers from James Brown. And,
Really?
Oh yeah,
Clyde Stubblefield?
yeah,
Right on.
dude. They are the epitome of in the pocket and on the beat. Like those dudes do so much, or did so much without it really. It sounded so simple, but when you really listen to it, their phrasing and writing and tastefulness was
Ghost
just like
notes and
holy
just-
shit balls.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably say Questlove.
Right on.
Yeah, I was a really, really big hip hop fan. Around that time, I was listening to death metal and hip hop.
Okay.
It was a very interesting. Yeah,
That's great though, because touring as I did the past couple of years
Yeah.
in the scene that the band was in, there was very little diversity
Yeah.
amongst musical tastes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everywhere we go, people are dressed the same for the most part. Everywhere we go, the bars playing the same music.
Yeah.
You know, everywhere we go, the local band is covering Skulls by Misfits or Folsom Prison Blues.
Yeah.
You know, so it was either punk or outlaw country for the most part.
Yeah.
And hip hop, I can't relate to it. Yeah, like
which is such a cop out because I'm sorry, but like every style of music, just about there's a relation to another style. You could find something in a piece of hip hop that you could find in a classical piece that you could find in, you know, a Tasmanian death metal band that you could find in a salsa tune from Brazil. Like all that shit, it's all the same thing. Like
absolutely,
essentially,
absolutely.
And I know what you're talking about too, because a lot of those. I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but a lot of the kind of like more underground niche bands,
Yeah.
that, you know, it's very much a lifestyle and they're committed to that. And it's kind of endearing and I respect it. Like, but at the same time, you know, they like purposely cut themselves off from a lot of shit, which I think is stupid.
It's funny. I just got back from Chicago yesterday. And when we were there, we were chilling. Yesterday, the day before, none of this matters. Either way, we were chilling, and it was a South Park marathon. And one episode comes up where Stan gets dumped by Wendy, and he joins the goth kids, and they're like, if you want to be a nonconformist, you have to dress like us and listen to the music that we wear or that we listen to. And I'm like, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. It's all the nonconformists conform to the same idea. It's like, wait a minute, do you see the irony of what you're doing here? Like,
and the start of a lot of those movements, that was like amazing because it had never been around before. So it really was like something to respect because that's like they created their own community.
yeah, it was rebelling.
Yeah, it really was. And that's
And now you can buy it at the mall.
awesome. And yeah, exactly. It's become just as commonplace as anything else is.
Right.
Which, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, just do whatever makes you happy. Whatever you are, just fucking own it because, you know, there's no point in trying to put yourself in this category or that category or whatever. And if anybody, you know, judges you for that, then they can go ahead and fuck themselves
Yeah,
because, like, that's
absolutely.
just fucking stupid.
Absolutely. So I guess how did you come to be Wilson's drummer then? Now here's the thing. Here's what I know.
Yeah.
I met Chad in July of 2009 when I had essentially just got back from Nashville.
Yeah.
And I asked him, you know, hey, I want to run sound at the Crowfoot. You know, can you help? And he introduced me to Ryan Thomas, who's been out with you guys running sound.
Oh, yeah.
And you got my my little guy Josh Sobek running around with you too.
Good man. He's a very good man.
He's righteous. He's a righteous dude, and he has the right approach and everything.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see what he's doing now because I know he's out with I Prevail and all that. And
and now he started. He posted the other day. He started as the production manager, and he ended up being the tour manager by the end of the first night because of some shenanigans or something. I guess.
And that's exactly what he deserves.
Yeah,
so I'm happy for him. But yeah,
no, it's cool. So my introduction to Wilson was through Chad. He was doing, he's still doing the Crowfoot and doing talent buying and all that. And he was playing in Mannon and Quail, his old band with his buddy. And then the next thing I know, he joins this band Wilson. I'm like, what are they about? And I will never forget the first time I saw Wilson in the Pike Room, and I saw Chad come to life within the context of that group.
Yeah.
And it was a side of Chad that I had never seen and didn't even realize could exist.
Yeah.
And I remember after the show going, dude, this is what you need to be doing. Don't stop. Don't stop. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And so then that, gets me out to Lansing, and I start meeting all the cats. Well, fast forward to today, Jason Spencer, he's the only original member of the group.
Yep.
It's his baby. He's the tone junkie. He's the principled visionary of the group.
Yeah.
But
He's the rock.
how, and it seemed to me, and I could be wrong, but it seemed to me that once Chad got into the band, and because of his network and his connects through being at the Crowfoot, and just because of who he is as a dude, just as a righteous dude, I could be wrong, but it seems like he and Jason had like a come to Jesus meeting about the group and said, if we're going to take it seriously, we got to get people, these guys that are with us now need to start taking it seriously. And if they can't, that's cool, but we got to find other people that do. And that became the, let's try people out. So how did you come to be in Wilson at that point? And that was in 2011 when you joined, right?
Sounds about right. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning. So. Yeah, I think it's 40. Yeah, right around there. Yeah. Actually, a little pre-story. Their old bass player, Drew Rambo.
Yep. Shares a last name with my queen, Jackie Rambo.
Okay, I grew up almost right around the corner from him. So he was playing in the band at the time, and this is actually in 2008 when I first moved back home.
Didn't he play in bare feet?
Yes,
when he played?
That he did.
I can't imagine doing that on some of these stages. Kevin from PTs does it. He did it at the Token Lounge. I've seen somebody take a poop on that stage.
Yeah. I mean, beyond the cleanliness of the stage, I feel like if I ever did that, I would probably end up with super AIDS or something. So, yeah. Socks and shoes every show. So yeah, when I first moved back home in 2008, I put on a show at the downstairs at Clutch Cargo's, and it was all bands or people that I knew and grew up with. So we had, a couple acoustic acts, and then the band I was playing in, and then I asked Drew to have Wilson play, and there was some other shit. So they played the show, and everything went really well. And he texted me afterwards, and he was like, hey, would you be interested in maybe messing around with us? Because I think at the time, Mike was kind of like, moving in and out.
He's vacillating.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know the full situation, but at the time, he sent that to me, and I didn't even reply. I was like, I don't want to play in Wilson. I've got my own band, my own thing. So now, fast forward 3 years, was still playing in the same band I was, but it just wasn't going anywhere.
Were you guys touring at all?
We maybe did like a handful of shows,
like a couple out of town shows.
Yeah. But it was that thing we were talking about before, where it's like these dudes were amazing, like they're great musicians, and I had been playing with them since 7th, 8th grade, so that was my baby. But they were only willing to go so far, and I wanted to keep going. So again, I ended up getting contacted by, I think it was Jason or somebody. They're like, yeah. Mike's not going to be sticking it out any longer. Are you interested? We got a tour coming up in, a month or so. And I was like, dude, all I want to do is tour. Even if I only do it once, I need to see, because I've been dreaming about it. I would practice pissing in water bottles so I'd be able to do it in a van. So I was like, fuck yeah, dude, I'll do it. I'll do it. So Jason would come up to the practice space we have in Warren, shedded out a couple songs. He was like, cool. Chad came out and he was like, cool. Do you want to do it? But we're going to be doing it. I'm like, dude, fucking bring it on.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah. So that, after that, it was just fucking go.
It was the same situation for me with the Cats, where I'd been working with them for a long time. And when we did Drunk in the Daylight back in 07, or early 08, after we wrapped it, we had their previous albums they had done with someone else, and when they came to me, we did a lot of more vocal harmonies and arrangements, and a lot of guitar layering and stuff like that. I remember approaching them once we wrapped production. I was like, hey, have you considered having a second guitarist? Because in order to really drive the impact home of these songs, that, you know, having a second guitarist that can also sing, you know. So I was essentially applying for that gig, you know, in '08.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we like the logistics of having a 3-piece. It's one less mouth to feed on the road, less space to take up in the van, all that stuff. So I was like, all right, I get it. And fast forward 4 years, or not even 4 years, 6 years later, and it's, you know, Ian's quitting. You know, we know that you have been looking at this, you know, for a while. Would you be interested? And it's just, yes, I want to tour. I want to tour. And that's why I dissolved Bad on Fire.
Yeah.
Because, okay, to that point, okay, before we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you.
Well, I want to hear about it.
Well, okay, so with Bad on Fire, the whole thing was we've got this group of guys, okay? I don't know, personally, I don't know a more versatile bassist than Wolf. I just don't.
Yeah.
Guy's got like a dozen different bass guitars for different applications. He's got a gigantic rig, all this stuff. He's a tone junkie too.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mike Hopper, he's out with Pickaxe Preacher now doing his thing. He's a great, just a human dude, you know, and just this amazing guitarist. Then we had Joe, who was this perfectionist, just very like a clinician on his instrument and everything. My brother's a lyrical genius, you know, like, and then there's me. But it's like all this talent is right there. And there were two things. It was, number one, no one wanted to make the necessary sacrifices and take the calculated risks in order to get on the road. There was a lot of it can't be done. You're out of your mind. That's not realistic.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm ready to eat bologna on hand and sleep on stages if I have to.
The old.
Yeah, exactly. So, and for me, when I went to audio school out in Arizona, Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences, okay, in '08. And I did that because I was for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to make music full time, and I figured, hey, I can make money engineering and at least working in music while I pursue my own path, you know, with the band. I went to school because I was tired of paying people in this area anywhere from $35 to $45 an hour to not give me the results that I heard in my head when I wrote the material. And because I like pro shit. I don't like amateur, you know, garage punk stuff. You know, it has its place. I get it. But for me, I want my music to be big and powerful and crisp and polished.
Yeah.
So I was, and quite frankly, most of the time in all the studios and any of the bands I've been in, I would sit behind or next to the engineer and be telling them, here's what I want to have happen. And they're moving the things around. So I'm learning a little bit from them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, the only thing I don't know how to do is I don't know how these faders and knobs and buttons all work. But if I can figure out how to do that, I feel like I got the ear. I can make this stuff happen.
Absolutely.
So I uprooted my life to go out to school to learn all this stuff. Okay, spent $25,000 to go to school and do all that stuff. Okay, I'm still paying it off.
Yeah, I'll be paying back loans. Still
Okay,
the day I die.
see. So
Shit.
so I do that, and I got offered, you know, essentially a teaching position at the school.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, you know, I didn't do this so that I could teach other people. I did it so that I could help my band sound better, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and make some money on the side. So I told the guys in the group at the time, it wasn't that collection of people. It was three completely different people. I said, hey, I'm coming back home, but if I come back home, are you ready to do this? Are you ready to make this the thing?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And then it became, you know, infighting and, you know, John, your standards are too high and, you know, your attitude is this and that. And it's just like, you know, I've given up everything. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my, you know, my job, all this stuff. I gave up everything and living with my parents at, you know, almost 30. And it turned out to be until I was 34, living with my parents, you know, so that I can keep my overhead as low as possible so that we can do this. And it ended up with Bad on Fire at the end being a thing of, you know what, we put all this work into this album and we're not going to tour. And before that, even, it was, we put all this work into this album. I did it for free. Nobody, you know, and I spent all this blood and sweat and tears to do this. And now it's mixed. Now I want to have a super good mastering engineer master it. Right. And so I got quotes from different places. I'm like, you guys, I need you to come out of pocket like $500 each to get this mastered.
Yeah.
People are like, no, I'm not doing that. It's not worth it. And I'm like, It's the only time I've asked. It's the only time I've asked you for money.
Yeah.
I don't come to you asking you for money. Like we
Yeah.
just need to do this so we can have the polished product. So it turned out like my brother ended up mastering it in headphones in his bedroom. You know what I mean? Yeah. And God bless him. You know, but he did a fine job. But he's not a mastering engineer.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I feel So there's that, and then I finally was like, in October of 2012, I was like, guys, here's the deal. I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to. If we are not on the road and touring by January 1st, or if we are not in the middle of implementing a strategy that puts us on the road by January 1st, I'm not going to play any shows in Southeast Michigan unless you put $100 in my pocket every time.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth it for me. I've entertained this Tri-County area for the last 20 years of my life. I'm over it. I need to get out. I want to play in front of strangers because your family and friends will tell you all day long that you're good.
There you go. And it's going to be the same, 20, 30, 40 people over and over and over again that aren't even necessarily coming out because they like your band. They're coming out because
it's
they're
you.
your fucking friend.
Because it's
like,
you.
Dude, I mean, and that's all fine and good, but like, no.
And that's the thing. And I'm sure you found, I know you found, that when Wilson gets in front of strangers, you're undeniable.
It's great. It really is fun because I've seen a lot of shows and played in bands where, like, sometimes you don't win over the crowd.
Yep.
And there's definitely occasions where we don't, but every single time, and not to, like, toot the horn or whatever, but every single time, we're playing in front of people and a majority of them might not know who we are. You'll see them just kind of standing here at the beginning of the show, and by the end of it, like, even if it's only just bobbing their head or then they're full on fucking moshing and going crazy, seeing that like happen over and over again is a pretty cool thing. I haven't seen that a lot in a lot of other bands. So yeah, that's really interesting.
I think part of it is the songs. That's the other thing that people don't realize is it comes back to the songs, you know. And with you guys, okay, well let's even get to that actually, because I've got questions about that. So for Full Blast Fuckery, the first album, I know that there's a couple tunes. I think did you re-record the drums for the tunes? Because I know Mike had recorded.
No, there were 3 songs that they had done, and they remixed and mastered it. But it was those
Shane Drush, right?
It was those original tracks. Got put onto the record.
Yeah.
So those 3 were already done, and then I did the rest of the record.
Right, and you recorded it in California with Steve Evans.
Steve Evans, the man.
Evans, pardon me. Was that your first time working with an outside producer on your band's stuff?
Yeah, my experience, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And to be honest, if I can delve in for a little bit.
Absolutely.
That was the first time that I had worked with somebody in a studio, and I had been in and worked in a lot of studios. First time that I had been with a producer who really not only knew what they were doing and had a full understanding of, the process of making a record, but he got the band and he would have these little just nuggets of things like, hey, maybe take that kick drum, move it over a couple beats instead of hitting the, crash there, maybe try a hi-hat thing. It was these small changes, and then you would listen back and be like, how the fuck did I not think of that? It's so small and so simple, but it changed everything. Yep. And just his motivation about doing it. Like, we got through the drums in 2 days, and I beat the living shit out of that kit. I think I cracked like 3 or 4 cymbals, and he's like, dude, fucking commit, let's do it. And he was just so great to work with. It was amazing. I never felt that working with anybody before. So that was truly an amazing experience. Totally changed my perspective on being in the studio, because I always loved being in the studio. But when you're with somebody who really gets it and gets you and wants the best for it and knows how to take you there, it's a fucking blast, man.
And you quit your job 2 weeks before going to the studio.
Oh, yes. I was an insurance agent for Allstate, and I was basically working there. And the band started getting busier and busier, and my boss brought me in, and he's like, listen, I think it's really cool that you're doing this whole band thing, but, here's the deal. Either you could be here and make some money and start a career, or you could, go do that. I'm like, I fucking quit, man.
So your boss put it to you. He put you to task.
Basically. And he was a great guy. And like, you know, he was definitely supportive because I would go on tours and he was like, yeah, no, it's cool. But then it started getting busier and busier and the ultimatum came up and I was like, yeah, that's a no brainer for me.
Did anyone advise against it other than your boss?
Advise against me quitting?
Yeah.
My parents.
Did anyone try to talk you out of
a
it?
little bit. They tried for maybe 2 minutes, and then you know they already knew anyway.
saw it
But
in
they
your
just
eyes.
yeah, and they've always been supportive, so I fucking love them to death. But yeah, they tried for a couple minutes, and then they were like, yeah, okay, do your thing.
So to that point, then, give some words about your feelings regarding the importance of risk and sacrifice when it comes to being a professional musician.
You gotta take them. You have to sacrifice a lot, and it's not for everybody. That's for sure. And there's a lot of people that like they really give it their honest effort, and then realize that it's like, you know, it's not for me, and that's cool. You have to do those things to really figure out if it's something you want to do anyway. But you know, I made up in my mind that I would rather be poor for the rest of my life, but be playing music because I knew I'd be happy than, you know, have money, be working some job I didn't want to. And, you know, I still live at home with my parents. I barely have, you know, a few dollars.
You're still with your folks now?
Yeah. Well, more or less.
There's nothing wrong. Just so you know.
Oh, no.
There's fucking nothing wrong. with that.
I've learned to embrace that for a while. It's definitely a melding of keeping my costs low.
Your overhead,
and then they're old. They're in their 70s.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I'm getting to repay my debt of being a young asshole, and now I get to help out around the house and do whatever. So
That's cool.
yeah. But back to it. Yeah. You have to be able to give up a lot to do the music thing.
What's the biggest thing you think you've given up?
Just time in general. I spend a lot of time practicing.
Really?
A lot of time playing. Oh yeah.
Give me an example of what practice is for you.
I'll be up at the space maybe 4 to 6 days a week for 7-8 hours. You know, I'll do pad workout, whatever. You know, watch movies, sit down at the kit for 2 hours, watch movies, then just go over and over and over. And I'll do a little bit of everything. It's not just doing Wilson stuff. If anything, it's doing everything else, going through books, you know, just trying to develop new techniques. I still haven't feel like I've really like found a comfort position with Wilson. So I tried different setups. I tried, you know, just everything.
Okay.
And yeah, so time would probably be the biggest sacrifice.
Let me piggyback on that. You say you don't feel that you're at a comfort place with Wilson. Because I don't think you mean obviously like the vibe in the group. You guys seem like your 5 best friends. touring.
More or less like the playing part.
Does this because you were so into hip hop that this very, very grid style of drumming is kind of still foreign to you, even though you've been playing it for a few years, or
not so much that it's the performance part, that and being able to just kind of keep your energy consistent instead of me. Like there's times where I get into a certain part in the song and I'm just like, fucking yeah. And then, you know, next song starts and I'm like, fuck.
You blew your load on that last song. You can't.
So it's always, you know, there's a lot of shows where, you know, everything goes pretty well, but there's been a lot of just ups and downs, and that's the more or less what I'm talking about. Being able to be comfortable, feel comfortable while I'm playing, but I'm still like whipping my fucking head around and, you know, playing Hulk Smash and all that. Yeah. So that's more or less what I mean.
Okay. What's your to that point? What's your diet like on the road?
Oh. Dependent. We try and stay away from fast food and all that shit. All the other dudes are really healthy. So, you know, good places to eat, you know, cool cafes for breakfast, doing, smoothies and blah, 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 blah. It's healthy, but we do have to do a fair amount of diners and, whatever. And then we have small stretches of Taco Bell and all that shit, which is...
You ever stay with friends or like
Oh, yeah.
people? Okay.
all the time,
Right
which is awesome.
You guys aren't hoteling.
We do sometimes when it's appropriate.
Right.
But for the most part, we got friends
Sleep in the
that we
van.
can stay with. Yeah, we do have to do that. But
Yep.
we actually have a bunk in the van, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I prefer staying with friends. Like, it's really nice. Getting a hotel and having your own space and whatever is cool, but you've got these friends that are everywhere. You don't get to see them, every day.
Right.
And even when we were in Europe, we did a majority of the time we were staying with friends over there, and it's like, that shit's awesome.
How many times have you been to Europe now? Is this 3?
Twice.
Just 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
just twice. Hopefully sooner than later we'll be going back. But yeah, it was every time there. It's unbelievable.
So, and this is not on my list of things to talk about with you, but since you mentioned Europe, this whole Brexit fallout is going to make things a lot more complicated for touring musicians.
Yeah.
And going over to Europe, from the States already is different.
Jesus.
I mean, we were lucky to have. Do you guys have a guy out there that drives you around and stuff? And
No, we did our own driving.
Really?
Yeah, we had a merch guy with us that was from out there that we met on the first tour, and he was kind of assistant TM and whatever. But we were in a Sprinter. We were in a bus the first time, so we had a driver.
Sure.
And then we had a Sprinter the second time, so we did all the driving.
Right.
It was
on.
already expensive enough to get over there.
Oh, yeah.
To where it was like, dude, I mean, we can't afford to pay people, and why the fuck would we anyway? Screw it.
But the good thing though is that you're going out with bigger artists.
Yeah.
You were over there with
Totally.
Hailstorm the first time, right?
Both times.
Both times, right
Yeah,
on.
first time.
You guys have become good friends with them.
Yeah. The first time we were over there, it was us, Nothing More, who we shared a bus with and have grown very close with. Great dudes. And then Hailstorm. And that tour, it was just like, after like the first week, it was just like we had known each other for years. So it was that immediate connection. And then they asked us to come out again, and it was like, fuck yeah, cool. Every time they come to Michigan, we're always at the shows. We've kind of crossed paths on the road a few times too. So it's like always trying to hang out and, see one another. They're a great band. And RJ is a fucking monster on the kit. That dude is like, the first tour we did with him, the first time I saw him play, I was like, what in the fuck? This is a showman. Not only is he an amazing drummer, but he is the epitome of a fucking showman.
Right on.
Jesus Christ, dude. I've seen, and he does, basically the same kind of show, as far as the overall goes and the solo and all that.
Yeah.
I watch it every single night, and it's just as exciting.
It's still impressive.
Oh, dude.
And see that's the mark of a good drummer. I've kind of felt that way when we were out with Reverend Horton Heat watching, because they're all very good in their instruments. Personality wise, some folks are a little different than others. But okay, I want to ask you this. I want to ask you this because I love you guys. Mm-hmm. Okay, all you guys. Fuckery.
Yes.
And toilet humor.
Yes.
Okay. And toilet reviews, right? But it seems like toilet humor and juvenile behavior is part of the branding of Wilson. Why is that?
I can't remember the direct quote, but Kevin Smith has made a career on dick and fart jokes, and I would hope to do the same in a manner of speaking. I mean, that shit just, it's fun. It's just fun for us. So the fact that it's become a part of, the band or whatever is just a natural happening anyway.
Right.
So, we're lucky enough to where we can just be jackasses all the time. We don't have to put on some like wearing my sunglasses inside and just like each next record's just like whatever, whatever. We get to just be ourselves and be fucking jackasses.
You don't need to be. You don't need to be Liam Gallagher.
I'm a fucking 31-year-old child, and it's awesome. Like that shit, just it. I can definitely tell that it just like has made me a happier person, just being able to fucking do whatever, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, it's a great extension of the band. It's one of the things I love most about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I couldn't embrace it, man. I couldn't, and that's one of the things when being in the Cats, they were always hitting each other in the nuts.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, making fun of each other, and it's just, you know, quite frankly, maybe I'm a little sensitive wuss or whatever, but growing up getting bullied and picked on my whole life, like I'm at the point now where I'm an adult and I'm like, fuck, enough's enough. Grow the fuck up.
Yeah, well, I will say this much, you know, for all of the messing around and, you know, bullshit that we do, there's a divide big time, you know.
Okay.
We're all grown up men. Like,
Right.
You know, we have to be around each other, you know, day in, day out. You know, you can't just be fucking 24 hours a day.
Right.
So,
It'll
you
wear
know,
pretty thin.
so yeah. So there's definitely that sense of like, you know, okay.
You guys have all learned when to do what when,
Yeah,
essentially.
for the most part, I'll
Right.
say. But yeah, you know, even though being a jackass and having fun like that is an extension of the band, it can't be there all the time.
Right on.
So yeah, we're grown-ups
Good. Right
when
on.
we have to be.
Now, the newer album, Right to Rise,
Yes.
that was produced by Johnny Andrews. Where did you guys record that anyway?
We did that out in Atlanta.
And he did Hailstorm.
Yeah.
Is that how you got linked up with him?
No. He actually was represented by our, I don't know if I can say this, but our manager.
Sure.
So we were trying to find producers at the time. We reached out to Machine, who does Lamb of God,
Yep.
Crowbot, all that. He was our clutch. He was our first kind of choice, and we were lined up to do it, and we couldn't pull the trigger fast enough, and then he had to go do the Clutch record, so that kind of flew out the window. And then there were a few other guys that just, it didn't work out for one reason or another. And we had gone down to Atlanta before just to kind of work on a couple songs with Johnny. He's an amazing songwriter. And our experience was really good, and you know, he seemed to get the band. So when it kind of came to like, okay, well, what do we do now? It was, okay, well, why don't we, you know, see if Johnny can do it. So that's kind of how it came into play. But yeah, he has a personal studio at his house where we did all the guitars, vocals, and bass, and then we tracked the drums at Glow in the Dark Studios, just outside of Atlanta. Great room. Matt Epstein, I believe, runs the place. They've done the Chariot records there. I want to say 3 Days Grace, a couple other things, but it was amazing space. Yeah.
How long were you down there for anyway?
Shit. We were there for about a month, maybe a month and change.
Whole band?
Yeah. We Airbnb'd a house.
Right on.
Just outside of the city, and moved all of our shit in there, set up in the living room, and yeah, we were there for a month and a half, and did the first 2 weeks as kind of like pre-production and writing. So,
Like you do.
Yep.
As you should do. For
Absolutely.
any musicians listening, planning, and pre-production makes the entire studio experience go smoother, because instead of wondering what you're going to do, you know what you're going to do, which gives you the freedom to explore when necessary. And you're not
Absolutely.
spending a lot of time on science experiments.
Yep. Oh yeah. I couldn't agree more. To be honest, I almost wish we would have had more time with pre-production. But you know, it is what it is.
Right.
So yeah, we did those first 2 weeks, kind of getting ready for it. Went in and did drums, and I think we did, I want to say like 12 or 14 songs in 2 days. So we were barreling right through.
Sweet.
Yeah, I could have stayed in that room for a month though.
Shit, if you like practicing 6 to 8 hours, I mean,
Dude.
you're not only hitting the drums 6 to 8 hours. Like you said, you're watching movies and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
no,
But
no.
I think it was Einstein who said being lazy is part of being creative. So
That sounds right.
Yeah, and he's Einstein. So
Yeah, no, I mean, that was great. I like I said, I almost wish there was more time for everything. You know, I think any musician, when you record anything, even if it's the greatest album of all time, you're still going to listen to it and be like, wish I would have done this differently. This sounds weird. I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. You're constantly kind of second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
And I've always done that. Always, and I always will. But with this experience, we hadn't really had this much time before. When we did Full Blast, we had 2 weeks to do the whole thing.
I remember.
And it was in and out. And
do you remember, speaking of which, do you remember at Max, no, not wasn't Max Bar. It was some, what the hell's the place out in Lansing? Local something? I forget what venue you guys played, but I came out there with a friend, and it was right after you quit your job, right before you went to Cali. I remember you coming off stage, and I remember hugging you and saying, "This is why you're gonna succeed, is because you are making the sacrifice that other people aren't gonna make." And you're going out there and doing it, and for the first record, So, how was the experience, though? What is a marked difference between working with Johnny versus working with Steve on the albums?
I think it was a big difference in negative and positive ways. Steve is more of I don't want to say more of a musician, but he doesn't have the focus on vocals that Johnny Andrews does. He's more of a songwriter. He crafts, melody and lyrics. Steve is a meat and potatoes dude, whole picture, but he's got much more of a musical understanding, if that makes sense. Like,
sure.
He doesn't just do guitar and bass really well. He knows everything. So he was able to really give us great advice, things that, we just didn't know because we didn't have that experience. And like I said, Johnny's more focused on, the melody and the vocals. So it almost felt like everything else, the meat and potatoes, the music, the foundation, didn't really get the attention that it should have.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when I'm in a studio.
In what way? No, go ahead. Sorry.
No.
When you're in a studio.
I like the idea of being pushed. I like doing things over and over and over again. I like that. I really
Oh my God.
I love that repetition. And I love working with somebody that's like, dude, I'm going to ride your ass, not because I hate you, because because
I know I can get the best. That's the fine line the producer has to walk, and that's what I tell my clients is it's not about perfect, it's about best possible. It's always about best possible. And there's a point of diminishing returns that you're going to get to. Maybe with you, it's 4 hours into a drum session for one song. I don't know, but for other people, it's 40 minutes in where you start to see their will start to break down, and then you start to see their abilities start to diminish, and they can't get, and it's like, oh, the third take was the best one, and now we're 8 takes in, and we already dumped that third take because we thought we could get better. And so that's the fine line as a producer you have to walk. So anyway, I can't believe you like just pounding it. I hate it. I'm like, at this point, if I got a drum a little bit off, I'm like, fuck it, just fucking grit it, man. I don't have time for this shit. I got a podcast to record. I got a blog to write. I got my own music to work. Like I went in to that point. All right, I just got hired by a band to lay down drums for them for 5 tunes. They went in with and I had been filling in with them at shows here and there, but their drummer had never recorded to a click track before. And they didn't know that until they showed up at the studio and they were paying money to be there.
I've worked in a studio with bands like that too.
Me too. So it's the studio owner, by the end of like 2-3 hours of trying to get these tracks out of this guy, he's like, look, I can grid these up and I can sample replace your drums and make them sound. And they were recording on the bassist practice kit because the drummer didn't have a good anyway. So he's like, I could do this, but the better option for you guys would be to hire a drummer to come in here and just lay it down, right? So they called me. I'm so busy, and I just know myself that what I ended up doing, I'm gonna really out myself here, but what I ended up doing was, it was 5 tracks, and I had played a few of them before, but there were 2 new ones that they recorded that I'd never heard before. I sat right here at my desk and played them on the speakers, and I just sat at my desk and just hit my foot on the ground for the kick drum and tapped the desk for an hour before going to the rehearsal with them.
Shit.
And I come in and they're like, dude, you're nailing it. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. I've been working real hard on it.
Really hard.
And then we go into the studio and I lay the 5 songs down in like 2.5-3 hours or something like that. And I'm like, Josh, you got enough to work with? He's like, oh yeah, dude, these are fucking killer. I was like, all right, cool. I'm out of here. I got stuff to do, man. I hate being in the studio pounding it and pounding it and pounding it and pounding it and pounding it.
Yeah. See,
I like mixing. Mixing I dig because I'm alone.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with other people. I don't have to deal with other people. I guess I don't fucking know.
Well, to be honest, when I've done session work too, and it feels more like a job in the case where I kind of agree with what you're saying. You know, when it's your band. But when it's your thing, it's like, dude, I could fucking just, I need somebody to tell me to stop because otherwise I'll just keep going.
Right.
Like that, my experience, like when I moved back home and I was working in that studio, I was in that drum room every single day, all day, just like recording shit and playing and doing whatever and doing it over and over and over. And I really enjoy that as much as I love playing live and, you know, that feeling of playing live, taking the mic, what am I thinking? Microscope and being in the studio and really digging into every note, every last little thing. I love that.
Awesome.
The details, man.
I like so the experience overall between the two producers was that you got a melody lyrics guy versus an instrumental guy or a full picture guy. To that point though, am I safe in assuming that Evitz the focus on the melody and lyrics from Evitz could have been more because of like what your experience with Johnny taught you is that Steve could have done better with the melody and lyrics, but it also taught you that, hey, Johnny didn't focus on the instrumentation as much. Does that make sense? Or I'm not trying to like put either of I'm
say
not
that
trying
one more time.
I'm saying because the vocal is the money.
Yeah.
Okay. When most people listen, okay, you're a drummer, you're a musician. So am I. When we listen to music, we hear different things than the average listener. The average listener is going to gravitate to the vocal, okay? And to that point, that means if your vocal's mixed too loud or too soft, or if it's mixed too dry or too wet, all those things. If the melody doesn't ride with the music the right way, if the lyrics don't paint the right picture or are vague enough for someone else to paint their own picture, those are the things that matter to the end listener 90 whatever % of the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
However, the impact of the music that's supposed to be supporting the vocal needs to be there in order to deliver the song's power as a whole. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm asking is where Evitz paid. I'm looking at it like, how do I say this? I have an all-in-one printer, scanner, faxer, copier here, right? And they can do all of those jobs pretty well. But if I had a dedicated scanner, it would probably do a much better job of scanning than this all-in-one.
Yeah.
So where I'm looking at it is like Steve was able to do everything pretty well, where Johnny killed it on melody and lyrics and the vocal, and then the music's good. It's real good, but it's there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And to kind of go into that a little bit more, the focus of each one of those records and the end result was totally different anyway.
And you can tell.
Yeah. I mean, when we did Full Blast, we weren't signed. We didn't have, I don't even think we really had too much beyond a manager and maybe a booking agent. So, you know, the songs we came in with, those were our songs. That's what we were going to do. There wasn't pre-pro. There wasn't, you know, any other writing we were doing in the studio. And, you know, it was just kind of go in and do it. So we weren't thinking about, even though we might have been, but we weren't thinking as much as we were on Right to Rise about like, well, let's think about going here and this needs to go here and blah, blah. It was just, let's put it out and fucking see what happens. Whereas, you know, with Right to Rise, now it's our, you know, first release with a label and there's all these other things going on and you're having to think about radio and, you know, all this other shit where there was much more of a premeditation on the message from the vocals and the way things were being said and all that to the point of, you know, if we're going to get thrown into this mix of all this other shit, then, you know, let's kind of write some songs or have an idea where, you know, it's a little more accessible.
And to that point, you said that Give 'Em Hell and the title song, Right to Rise, said those were the songs where you had a whole new way of songwriting that you hadn't done before.
Yeah.
Help me understand what you mean by that. How did Wilson previously write songs, and what fundamental changes happened to the songwriting process for Right to Rise?
I mean, Jason has, and he still had done all of the writing musically, and would program all the drums and whatever, and then I would learn what he had done programmed, and then maybe make some small changes here and there. Whereas then when it got to those songs, or the newer stuff, I was actually fully writing everything on my own. I would like have him, he would lay down a skeleton, but then it would be like, okay, I'm going to really craft these parts for myself and my style. When it came to those two songs, though, it was, I mean, at least from a drummer's perspective, it was just real simple, like really doom da,
Yeah.
just really laying into it. And, I would have had a completely different idea for the drums that would have been much more complicated, but I don't think it would have delivered that same impact. So it was really making things simple to service the song and really give it a punch. So for those songs, that's what really kind of changed our perspective on writing. You can have all these flashy parts and this, that, or whatever, but having that kind of really just, I don't really know how to describe it, but having something that is just, it's not about showing people how great of a player you are. It's showing how great of a song it is. And sometimes that means doing something that's a little simpler, something that's easier to play for yourself. And that I had never really thought about doing before. I was always like, I just want to push myself for every song I write. Whereas there's a whole nother world with doing something simpler and really sinking into perfecting that. Because playing simple is really fucking hard to do.
Yes. Yes. Duke Ellington is quoted as saying, "A rest is a note too."
Yeah.
Duke
is a smart man.
Yep. So, and I don't know if it's overtaken the number one spot. It may still be number two. I think it may be number one. You know what the number one or two best-selling album in the world is?
Is it kind of blue?
AC/DC, Back in Black.
Here you go.
There's 5 things on that album: the drummer, a bass player, a guitar in the left speaker, a guitar in the right speaker, and the lead vocalist. And then here and there they have some gang vocals, and then they had a bell made for Hell's
That
Bells.
fucking band, dude.
Okay? And you listen to it, and it's simple. It's 5 guys doing what they do best, nailing these simple riffs, right? People don't realize. You Shook Me All Night Long, all right? Gets to the guitar solo. What's the rhythm guitar doing? It's going bap, ba da da, bap, bap, ba da da, bap, bap. It's simple. And that was a lesson that I learned when I was in audio school. We had a guy, Richie Fliegler. He's essentially given credit for saving Fender as a company in the 80s or early 90s. Anyway, but he was playing these different songs and showing us how simplicity and stuff like that works. And I remember listening to that and going, he's right. And it made me approach what I do when it comes to making my music. Because, dude, you heard Bad on Fire stuff. It's like all concept progressive metal all over the place. Now these days, I'm looking at my songs and going, what can I take away from this? What doesn't have to be there?
Dude, I'm in the same boat. Same boat.
And it's humbling. Okay, another thing. M. Night Shyamalan, the director, I remember a quote from him. He's saying, at film school, I learned that as a director, you have to be prepared at all times to cut your favorite scene.
Yeah.
If you're prepared to cut your favorite part for the betterment of the whole, it might be your favorite, but if it doesn't belong in the narrative of the movie, or if it disrupts the flow, it's inconsequential.
Yeah.
At that
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of people have a difficult time dealing with that. It's a shot to their ego, or it's just, what for whatever reason. But it's like, dude, there's a bigger picture here. And as much as you might love it and it might sound super sweet and blah, 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 you got to think bigger than that.
Yep.
If it doesn't really help tell that story from start to finish, then you gotta be able to let it go.
Yep.
And I mean that's a thing that I've definitely have had to learn over the years, because in previous bands I would not do that.
You'd
at
overplay
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was listening to Mars Volta and RX Bandits and all that shit, and Maps and Atlases, where they're like fucking just all over the place. They're filling in every little gap with something. So that's what I got really used to playing, and it was a tough thing to let go of. But once I started to do it, and on those 2 songs, that was kind of like the turning point of being like, okay,
right on.
I get it.
And see, and to that point, and going in and working with Johnny and his focus on melody and lyrics, it sounds like he's very vocal focused. And as a producer, I mean, how long was Chad in the booth?
Shit, yeah. I mean,
right.
That was the majority of the time. We actually had to come back down for another week or so we could finish up. But yeah.
See, that's the opposite of what I'm used to dealing with on the local level. And part of the reason that I don't really produce or engineer bands much anymore, unless they're going to do it the right way, in the way that I know it should be done. And it's not about me. It's that when you, like yourself, when you have the experience of going into studios and working with people who know what the fuck they're doing, okay, and have been doing it for a long time and are schooled and are experienced in doing it, they understand the way. As an overarching thing, right? They're gonna help manage your vibe and all that stuff, but it's a thing of, from the outset, committing to doing pre-production. Understanding that the vocal is the money line, and you're gonna want, if you're doing 10 songs, then you're probably gonna want to set aside a good at least 5 days at least for vocals, to try to do 2 songs in a day. I mean, and that's even sometimes pushing it, depending on the nature of the material. What I end up running into a lot of times, and have run into, is music. Oh, we got a couple days to do the vocals, and so the vocals are just banged out as quick as possible, and the vocalist, oh yeah, that's good enough. Oh, that's cool. And it's like, are you listening to the same thing I'm listening to? It's like, I can work with this. It is gonna be what it is. But and I'm sorry to say that none of the albums I've done have changed the face of music or anything like that. But at the same time, it really comes back to budget. You know what I mean? With the people that I've worked with. And I've learned now, though, that it's at the point where if you don't have the budget to do it, then we should just not do it. Because am I going to try to make greatness with you on the budget you have? I can't make greatness with you on the budget you have. But you're going to take, and you're going to say, okay, John, thanks. And then you're going to go to somebody else who will agree to work with you on that budget that will get you a result, but it won't be greatness per se.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So explain your love for Gold Bond. I'm with you on the fresh socks, but Gold Bond seems to be a thing that you guys are incredibly emphatic about.
Yes. I got to be honest, I'm actually on a bit of a break from Gold Bond, and I will certainly get to it. But Gold Bond is just, it just feels really great on a sweaty ass crack or a sweaty pair of balls. It's like... It's like, a fresh breeze of mountain air right in your shorts. And especially for a drummer who's constantly getting swamp ass and whatever, it's just, that shit fucking rules. But I got to the point where I started overusing it, and there was a rash situation going on. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, shit, am I dying? Like, what I do? And then I stopped using Gold Bond, and it went away, and I was like, God damn it. God damn it. So now I'm living in the world of sweaty nuts again.
See, we just brought baby wipes.
See, I've used those before, and I got to be honest, thank you, because I forgot all about that shit, and now...
Baby wipes, dude.
Baby wipes all day.
Scented or unscented, doesn't even matter, but baby wipes are good. Mm-hmm. I always got sweat stains on my pants, constantly, all up, and then through the butt and everything, just sweat, and And it's like you're trying to pack light because there's only a certain amount of room and everything. So it's like you can't bring all your clothes for Christ's sake. But so it's like, okay, I got 2 pairs of show pants and my day shorts or whatever. But I could only wear the show pants. Like the third show, there'd be salty white stains on my black pants, and I don't want to go out there looking like a dirt ball. So it's like, oh, can we hit the laundry? Can we hit the laundry? And those, I don't know how they did it, but they never got as sweaty as I did. But anyway.
Yeah, I have the same problem, but thank God I'm sitting behind the kit so they can't tell.
You said before that you'd rather be late for a show than mess up on stage.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Because I don't like messing up. Just no show can ever be perfect, and your own worst critic and all that shit. But like, you know, when I've got certain mistakes on stage, something I'm still working on, it's like I have a tough time letting go of that. Instead of thinking of the whole show, I just get off stage and I'm like, well, I fucked up that one hit there. I missed that here. And that's what I think about more than, you know, the better parts of the show.
Do you lament those things with your bandmates, or is that private for you?
I used to, and now I keep it to myself, if at all. Because, you know, complaining about it doesn't do a fucking thing.
I'm not even complaining, just because I'm the same way, dude. And quite frankly, you know, stepping into someone else's outfit as I did, and, you know, you're trying to live up to it. They have all this history behind them of, you know, performing, and fans have certain expectations and whatnot. And even though I know, quite frankly, that sonically they never sounded better. Yeah. But when I fucked up, I'd still feel shame. Yeah. Like shame and guilt, you know, because it's like, I'm being paid to do this. You know, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be spot on.
Yeah, that's
especially when you're not drunk or high going into the gig. You know what I mean?
I can't play drunk or stoned.
Oh yeah?
No, I have.
Oh, of course,
technically,
of course.
But yeah, no, I especially drunk. I don't even understand how fuckers do that. Like, as soon as I get like that first like kind of feeling in my stomach where I'm like, all right, here we go. Yeah. Everything just loosens up, and I don't feel like I'm right on top, which is
you're not as present.
Yeah, which for certain musicians, not drummers, you know, a little bit of looseness helps. Right. For me, I don't like that, so yeah, I can't do it, or I shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I've had a couple unfortunate incidents when I was playing guitar, being in a 3-piece band. Yeah. The guitar is basically the harmonic content of the music. Yeah. And so if I'm fucking up on guitar with a 3-piece band, it is painfully obvious. Yeah. I learned in our first Europe tour. Yeah. The singer pulled me aside and he's like, watch these guys. We were watching Peter Pan Speed Rock. You ever heard of them? No. They're a band from Germany. Anyway, really, really talented. I'm like, this guy is killing it on guitar. He's like, yeah, the guitarist in a 3-piece band has to carry the band. Yeah. And that's when I really realized how much weight was on my shoulders, and I started like, you know, watching the John Petrucci DVD and like, you know, like learning all this stuff. I was not a lead guitarist before I joined the band. I was always a rhythm guitarist and a songwriter for my band, you know, and then when it came time for lead solo, I'd hand the guitar over to the guitarist in the band and kind of say, oh, can you go up here? And then, no, don't hit that. No, give them the idea. But my skill set wasn't there. So I had to like really get after it with them. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a interesting monster. Like I said, it's something I'm still working on, just not letting that shit get under your skin too much. Like, but you care. Yeah. It's because you're so passionate. It's that, again, you're 11 years old, discovering the drum kit, right? And now you're 31 years old, 32, whatever. 31, right. So 20 years later, you're still that kid who wants to do well, and not necessarily, you want to impress people, but it's not that because you need their validation or recognition. It's that
for myself more than anything else.
It's your standards that you want to live up to, and you know when you let yourself down, and you know why or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a positive way to take a look at those mistakes, and that's something that I'm trying to get better at, because instead of just getting all fucking bummed out about it, it's like, okay, well, here's the mistake. Why did it happen? How do I change it?
Right on. Here's something I read that you said. We already have in our minds that we're going to be broke for the rest of our lives.
I think I said that earlier in the interview.
Why? Why do you think you're going to be broke for the rest of your lives? As successful as Wilson is now, today, and you see you can chart your progress. You can show on paper, if you really want to write it down. Yeah. You can show your measurable growth. You have metrics that you can
Yeah.
use to chart your measurable growth over time. And you also obviously are professionals with brains and a team behind you that is working in your best interest.
Yeah.
One would assume, right? So why do you think that you'll be broke for the rest of your life? Or is that just a mindset that you carry into everything so that you can appreciate what you're doing?
It definitely is and has always been that way for sure. But then there's the reality of the situation where you see a lot of bands out there that are extremely successful, but what they're actually making is, next to nothing. They're still having to work jobs when they're at home. They're still having to grind and grind and grind. And, some of these bands are pretty big, or at least on
Relative to where you're
definitely, beyond where we're at.
Yeah, we don't need to name names, obviously.
Yeah. So I just more or less don't want to say I want to be rich and I want to have money and all this other shit. My end game is being able to still be in a band, pay my bills, and be happy. And that's end game for me. And anything beyond that, as much as I would love all of it, is bonus points. So I just kind of I like having that feeling. I don't want to expect anything. So whatever I get out of it is going to be positive for me.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. You're not, I was going to say succumbing, but that means like accepting, I guess. What you're doing is you're deliberately giving yourself up to the process. And it's not that you're going along for the ride and wherever this piece of driftwood that I'm holding on to floats to, that I'm going to end up there. You're obviously, it's important to you to latch onto something that has upward mobility, because the bands that you left in order to go to Berkeley, the band that you left in order to join Wilson, okay, those weren't giving you the mobility that you wanted. And now you obviously you're in a mobile band, you're all over the country, you're all over Europe, all that, UK. So, but I look at you guys and what you're doing and the way that the crowds interact with you and just the connection that you have with your audience and the rabid fans that you have, right? I mean, I'm walking around Pig and Whiskey last weekend, and I see a guy with a Wilson shirt. I'm like, of course I see a guy with a Wilson shirt on. I just don't. When I read that quote of we have it in our minds, we're already that we're going to be broke for the rest of our lives. I'm thinking, no, you're not. No, you're not.
I really hope not.
Not if you keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? But to that point, though, if you're keeping your overhead low, living with your folks, and you're making smart decisions as a group and as individuals, I don't see why you couldn't do this for 15, 20 years.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be able to be, still be doing this if I, wasn't able to kind of live just on my means.
Yeah.
There's not really, time for extra shit, or if it is, that it's every once in a while and you enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I certainly would hope not to be. And the progression of the band is definitely risen for sure. So it's like, it's nice to be able to pay some of my bills because I play in a band. Yeah. That was a huge victory for me, you know. And I was in Wilson for a couple of years before we actually, got to see something for ourselves, because the bigger picture is keep the band going. If we can't afford to do what we need to do, then what's the fucking point?
Right.
So, it's going the right way, but I'm able to live on a little, and I'm prepared to do that for as long as it takes. Right on. I don't want to, but I'm prepared to. No, and I have been.
That's the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And that's something that people don't understand. You're living like a rock star. You get to go all over the place. Your life must be so great.
That shit.
And it's like, no. You don't understand.
Yeah.
It is a job. Yeah. Do I have fun at my job? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I get to play. Okay. But everything else surrounding playing is usually work.
Yeah. You've got maybe, half hour to an hour of really great time when you're on the road, when you're playing. Mm-hmm. That other 23 and a half hours for the most part, is work.
Yep.
You know, and yeah, from the outside perspective, you see like, yeah, you get to go here, there, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's awesome. It really is, and I've gotten to create some amazing memories that I would never be able to do otherwise. I have the greatest job in the world as far as I'm concerned, but there definitely is that, you know, living like this, that, whatever. It's like, dude,
Right. You don't have any
Wanna-
frame of reference.
Yeah, if you
unless
wanna-
you've gone and done it before, you don't know.
yeah,
You don't.
yeah. I hate hearing that.
So you like Lemmy a lot.
I do,
Why is Lemmy like your hero?
for so many reasons.
Go.
The first one is his shorts.
His shorts.
The Daisy Dukes. That dude, fucking, he knew how to wear a pair of fucking jean shorts. Shit, man. I mean, beyond the obvious music, like, you know, Motorhead rules, and then everything else that he's done, like, you know, the Probot stuff, and you know,
Robot. I remember.
yeah, you know, he's done a lot of other little things here and there. So musically, he's just amazing. You know, he's original, but then his values and everything else about him, like, there's a reason why, you know, he garnishes the respect that he has.
Right.
You look at the type of dude he is, he would have every reason and excuse to be a fucking rock star piece of shit asshole living in a mansion, you know, dating a fucking Playboy bunny, whatever. And he had that same shitty apartment off the strip till the day he died. And it was just a, you know, little 1-2 bedroom apartment.
I had no idea.
Yeah, dude.
Because I've never been a Motorhead fan.
Yeah, dude. He is, I don't know. He never sought out, like, you know, doing what other people were doing or whatever. He did him, and that was it. And
Right.
that is a really tough thing for people to do, I think, in music. Once you get to a certain spot, you're like, all this influence comes in where it's like, well, you know, you want to be like this, or you look like this, or act like this, and blah, blah, blah. And it was, for him, he just did him. And that's a fucking hard thing to do.
Yes, it is. And that's something that I learned for myself too, going through the experiences I've been through, is now I'm like, you know what? And I say this without conceit or ego or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of the situation. I've been helping other people make their music better for them for years.
Yeah.
And I've been making the music, I've been writing and making and performing music in order for the people that I know to do it with me, because it's what they liked. And
Yeah.
now that I'm free of being in a band and I'm on my own, I'm free to make whatever comes to my mind. I don't have a genre restriction or a
Yeah.
style restriction. I'm just a musician. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
But you talk about Lemmy like that, he's iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and not just for like his genre, but as just being
as a
Lemmy,
person.
he's iconic
Yeah.
because he's authentic. Okay, like David Bowie, like Prince.
Yeah.
Okay, being your authentic self, and that's the thing too. Is we have entered into the beginning of an age of authenticity. Okay, I may have said this before, but why is Donald Trump on one side and, you know, until recently Bernie Sanders on the other side resonating with so many people? It's because Trump's been the same Trump he's been all his life. Bernie's been the same Bernie he's been all his life, and
Yeah.
and people respond and connect with that authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas, you know, we've seen 9 different Hillary Clintons over the last, you know, 25 years. So
Fucking hate politics.
you know, I do too,
Jesus.
but quite, you know, I'm talking to my mom on Mother's Day. I took her out to eat and we were sitting there talking and we got on the topic.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know, she's like, John, I lived in Detroit during the 1968 riots, and this is the craziest time of my lifetime. And
Yeah.
this is also the most important presidential election of my lifetime. So, and she's 61.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't need to get into that. I'm just talking about authenticity,
Yeah.
though, from the authenticity standpoint. And the more and more that I read and the more I experience, the more I realize that every time I'm upset with myself for doing or not doing something, it's because I didn't do or did something that wasn't true to me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, you got to follow your gut.
Right.
I mean, that's what has made me who I am. Like, you know, I've definitely done things for other people that I've had positive and negative, you know, outcomes from those. But at the end of the day, like, if you don't have that feeling in your stomach that you're like, yes, I should do it, or no, shouldn't do it. If you do the opposite of that, it's just gonna fucking ball
Pain.
up and ball up and ball up, and you'll always regret it. And that's the last thing I want to live with is regret.
Right on.
You know?
I got a few.
Yeah. Shit. I got a few, but I only have a few, you know? And I could have a lot more if I chose to.
Right on.
If that, makes sense.
No, if you allowed yourself to ruminate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I got some questions if I haven't asked enough already.
Dude.
So, what would you say is the most important thing that being in Wilson specifically has taught you?
Hard work pays off.
That's great.
Yeah.
Four simple words.
It really does. It's that simple. It was finally get into a band where everybody's got the same work ethic that you do, and I hear a lot of people say, well, you guys work really hard and this, that, whatever. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, I suppose we do, but this is just normal. This is normal pace. We could be doing more, to be honest. You could always do more, but that's it. I've seen from when I joined the band to now that's why it went from here to here is hard work. That's it. That's the biggest thing I've learned. I mean, there's other musical things and personality traits and all this other shit that I've definitely learned and was happy to. But yeah, that's the big boy right there.
Hard work pays off. I like it. All right, I don't want to call it 6 degrees of separation, but I'm gonna give you some names. Mm-hmm. You could say a word. It could be a sentence. It could be a paragraph. It could be a story. Whatever. Okay. But whatever comes to mind when I say the name.
Okay.
Chad Nicefield.
Oh. Mile a minute. He is an amazing dude, and he's always painting a picture for every situation in his head. And he's definitely one of the dudes that really proves hard work pays off. Yeah, I love the dude to death. I think sometimes he thinks about too many things. He kind of goes off into some tangents where I wish he wouldn't, or I try and just be like, dude, no, just turn the other way. But that's just the way he is, and it's because of that quality that all the positive shit that's happened has come out of that. So, yeah,
right on. Kyle Landry.
Oh, jeez, modern day Adonis. Kyle,
that boy is fit.
Yes, he is. Yeah, that dude he's fit and he's got some balls on him, that's for sure. I don't know how the fuck he's done that hanging upside down shit. I would never ever do that. Kyle is a really, really good person. He is one of those guys, though, that he doesn't need a school or anybody to show him how to do anything. He's self-motivated about whatever. And that goes from everything from building pedals to, all the homework that he does, not homework, but, handyman shit that he does, even fixing his car, all that other shit. He just has a thirst for knowledge that you don't really see in a lot of people. And then he's also just got this very interesting perspective on life, and we have a lot of dude chats about it. He's just got some far out ideas and ways of thinking, which I can certainly relate to. So yeah, he's a unique individual. I love him. Good dude.
Steve Evans.
Oh man, the man with the plan. Guy, he rules. The bands he's worked with, the records he's done. He'd speak for himself. It was amazing getting to work with him. I hope to do it again. The other key word would be epiphany. that whole process was epiphanous.
For you?
I think for all of us, but yeah, definitely.
Was that the first time that all you guys? You said it was your first time working with a producer. They had worked with a producer before?
They'd worked with Shane, doing those first 3 songs.
Right on.
And I think in previous bands they did, but this is the first time that we had collectively worked with a producer while recording,
Right
like
on.
a full-fledged thing. But yeah, that just changed a lot.
Opens your eyes to a different world.
Yeah, that guy is amazing.
Johnny Andrews.
Epiphanous.
Again, right on.
Every experience is. He's a great guy. He really knows songwriting well. And I respect him big time. Yeah.
James Lasku.
The Romanian son of a bitch. That guy fucking, yeah, I don't know. I first got to know James way back in early mid-2000s when we were each playing in metal bands, and we would cross paths every once in a while, and we kind of had this, we would hang out at certain parties and get fucked up together. So I'd known him for a while. He's one fucking hell of a bass player.
And a lefty.
Yep, and a lefty. I remember the day Chad was like, we were looking for a bass player. He's like, dude, I'm going to hit up James. He's in Romania, but I'm going to fucking do it. I was like, fuck yes, dude. Yes, 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 yes. He's just a fucking talented guy. He breathes music. He's always playing. Like, you can, when you watch him play, it's not just because, he's naturally gifted, but he's got a lot of drive to improve himself. And, being a drummer, having a bass player like that is really fucking awesome. Never really felt that kind of connection. Maybe once with the older band, but not to that level where he's just he's a freight train and a good dude too.
Right on.
Yeah.
Last one, Jason Spencer.
Oh, dude. That guy is inspiring for sure. He fucking works harder than anybody I've ever seen. Like, full-time job, writing songs, doing a major portion of our accounting, all of our books, all that stuff. And then the band shit.
Right.
That dude taught me a thing about work ethic. Fucking A, dude. Like, he just never stops, never takes a break. And that is like, you don't see a lot of people that really have that motivation, and it's just built inside of him. He doesn't know how to not do it. So when you see that type of person, it's fucking inspiring. He really, really is like one of the best people I think I've ever really met.
And you get to play behind him every single night.
Man. Yeah. He's definitely like we are one in the same as far as jackassery goes. That's for sure. But the same goes when it comes to work and music and pushing the band in a positive way, but from the music. And that's, the band would not be around to begin with, but it would be completely different and a hell of a lot smaller without him around. Right. And the same goes for everybody. Like,
right.
Without a doubt in my mind, especially, Chad, that dude is fucking, taking the band to places that it wouldn't be at without him there. And yeah, Jason's definitely that dude.
I feel as though I could be wrong, but I feel as though, cause I never knew Wilson before Chad joined it. Chad was my introduction. Mm-hmm. But I feel as though coming from where I've come from with founding a band and being the principal songwriter and being the driving force and the workhorse and all that, I feel as though what happened when Jason met Chad is, and I don't know how Chad came to be in the band, but I think Chad saw Jason's drive and went, this band deserves, Jason deserves better in this band. Not to say that not Drew or
Yeah.
or Colin or Mike, that they were bad people. It's not that. It's that Jason wants it more than everyone else in the band.
Oh, yeah.
I want it just as bad as Jason, and so those two working together are what really launched it off.
To be honest, I think the band was started as a kind of a joke thing.
We're gonna play, get free beer.
There you go. All that
get laid,
shit. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was always kind of the mindset, but I think Jason really wanted it. Once it started getting serious, it was like he actually did want it. And then when Chad came along, it was like, okay, this could be a joke fun thing, or this could be something else. And then I think from that point, then it's been building up to have the rest of the members with that similar mindset.
Right.
And yeah, that's definitely the case.
Right on. How often do you talk to yourself?
Who, like out loud or just in my head?
In your head.
All the time.
How about out loud?
Some of the time.
In the mirror?
No.
Okay.
No. If I'm fucking up, it's more like, dude, why the fuck did you just do that? Don't be an idiot. Like,
Right.
just small stuff like that.
Right on. What do you tell yourself when you screw up? I think you just answered that.
Yeah. That, and then, a couple minutes later, just like, not the end of the world. You can do it better.
Right on. What do you tell yourself when you do well?
You can do better.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's humble.
Yeah.
That's
always pushing yourself.
How
You
do
can
you
always do better.
how do you reward yourself when you do something great?
I'm already rewarded because I did good.
Fuck you. Fuck you. You're so good. Oh, how do you relax?
Smoking weed and taking baths.
Taking
I really like baths.
Epsom salt, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't done that yet?
I don't think so. No.
Just go to a Walgreens or something like that, and you can get a big bag of Epsom salt for like
Really?
like $8 or something like that.
I was actually fitting to do a bath tonight too because I went to boxing and I'm fucking like super goddamn sore. So
You box?
Oh yeah, I actually just started like a couple weeks ago.
I
Love it.
It's funny you mentioned the smoking weed. I love smoking weed,
Yeah.
but I made the decision last week to repurpose my weed money for something that will benefit me more, and I'm going to start taking Wing Chun Do.
Oh no shit.
I was going to sign up today, but time isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
But literally right down the street,
Uh-huh.
I'm pointing that way, right down the street, Plymouth Road,
Yeah.
a mile and a half from here,
No
Wing
shit.
Chun Do studio. So the master at this Wing Chun Do studio, okay, let me break this down because this is the first time I've talked about this
Yeah.
publicly, I guess. So I want to kind of keep it private, but you brought the thing up.
Yeah.
You have Netflix?
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Ip Man is on there?
I've seen it. I've
You've
seen
seen
it on
the
there.
thing.
It's actually on my list of things I want to watch. It's on my list.
awesome.
Yeah.
So Ip Man is based actually on an actual person named Yip Man, who was
Okay.
born in 1898. And long story short, he became the Grand Master of Wing Chun.
Okay.
Okay. He taught Bruce Lee.
Oh no shit.
Bruce Lee then moved to Seattle, and at Edison Technical School in Seattle, he met a few other fighters who came from different styles. And one of them was a heavyweight champion in the Air Force, had never lost a fight, and
Yeah.
then he meets Bruce Lee, and he can't even put a hand on him.
Yeah.
He's all tied up. He's like, I felt like my arms weren't my own.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Bruce Lee wants to learn their different fighting styles so that he can apply it to what he's learning, and then he also is training them and teaching them. Well, this guy's name, the heavyweight fighter, was Jack DeMille.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, James DeMille. Pardon me. James DeMille. Well, so James DeMille trained with Bruce Lee. James DeMille trained the master at this Wing Chun studio.
Oh no shit.
And James DeMille will be in town soon to hand over the Wing Chun system, the Wing Chun Do system. The Do is the more modernized version for America or the States.
Yeah.
He's handing over the Wing Chun Do system to this master. So he will now become a Grand Master of Wing Chun Do.
Oh shit.
And that is who he's going to be teaching me.
A mile and a half down the street.
Mile and a half down the street. There's people who drive from
Small
out of
world.
state to come take classes
Yeah.
here,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Fuck man.
It's $110 a month, and
Yeah.
I can go unlimited, which means I get up to 9 hours of training a week. I'm going to be there all the time.
I've got the same thing. Actually, I'd always been a fan of boxing anyway.
Yeah.
But then
I took Taekwondo when I was a little kid.
so did I. Junior black belt.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. I don't remember a fucking damn thing about it, but Yeah, I'd always just been a fan of boxing anyway, and then I would watch all these documentaries and just seeing their dedication and work ethic is obviously something that, like, you know, I can relate to, but then having that kind of control over your body is something that I want, you know.
Yep.
I want like more control. I want full control over my body. So that was definitely a big reason for it. And then also at the time I was just kind of like in a really shitty spot too. And I had like all this.
When was this?
This is a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're saying at the time, like it was like
Yeah.
3 years
I was just, no, at the time,
right. No, you're good.
20 days ago.
Right.
I was just kind of in a shitty spot, and I like just had a lot of pent up shit.
Sure.
You know? And I didn't really have a way of getting it out outside of like playing. So I was like, you know what? I just want to go hit some shit, but I want to like learn how to do it right. So I ended up going to this place a couple miles away from, you know, where I'm at, and it's awesome.
Fantastic.
I just love it. I really, really do. And I don't like fighting. I'm not, you know, I would never take it out and just like go to the bar and be like, let's fucking do it.
No.
But like, I truly enjoy it. It's really, really fun. And I mean, the hand-eye coordination, especially as a drummer, is like, that's why I kind of like took to it immediately.
When you talk about your endurance when you're playing too, that's the thing is it's going to help you so much with your endurance,
there you
dude.
go. I mean,
and it's going to help your core because you don't just punch with your fist, you
no,
punch
you're
with your
punching
whole body.
And yeah, that's so like, you know, that advantage musically is another reason why I did it. But yeah, I love it, man.
That's great. That's great. I'm looking at doing this as it's going to become my spiritual practice. Like I'm going to give myself kind of like what you're talking about, trusting the process. I'm just going to give myself up to the process.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about, I'm going to become a black belt someday. Okay. Well, all I know is that if I give myself up to the process, that eventually that will happen.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So it's, and quite frankly, it's a confidence thing because I don't want to say I've been a pussy, but I'm not a violent person. I don't want to be in a fight, but so a lot of times I don't say things that I want to say or do things that I want to do out of fear of violence coming at me. Not like I'm going to say something that's going to make somebody want to punch me, but I've had people get upset with me to the point where I feel like if it went any further, if I gave them more truth than they could handle, it would happen. Yeah. And I want to be able to defend myself, you know, and I just like the spiritual. I like the Eastern philosophy of just you're talking about the dedication and everything. It's just committing to the process,
and looking inside yourself and finding that whole peace thing. That I absolutely respect that type of religion, big time.
Right on, man.
I mean, not even just the religious part of it, but the way they approach improving yourself, and you know, that's something that's really amazing. I don't see that in a lot of, you know, Western religions. I don't even see religion in that shit.
Right. That's
my
awesome.
my own opinion.
So you relax by smoking weed and taking a bath.
Well, I got to be honest. I don't smoke nearly as much weed as I used to, so it's kind of like a every once in a while thing. But the bath part, absolutely.
You gotta soak the undercarriage. It's good for you. And you know, it's funny, the smoking thing. I still smoke weed. I'm just at a point where I don't want to spend my money on it. You know what I mean? And then not like I'm mooching off other people, but if it's around and somebody offers it, okay, fine. But it's not like I have to get it. I've run out. I got to go get it.
Yeah, that's
to
another
where it used
thing.
to be like that. You know?
Oh yeah. It does burn a hole in your pocket, and for the most part, I don't pay for it. I'll end up just kind of having.
Well, I mean, you're on the road. People are offering. It's
nice. It's a nice little advantage. But it definitely will burn a hole in your pocket, and I have to live within my means. So
I'm saving up for what I found I believe is the best bang for your buck vaporizer, so that I'm not actually smoking it. You know, it's like $300 though. I can wait.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the most influential person in your life?
Oh, it's a really difficult question.
Thank you. I thought of it myself.
I can't really think of a most influential. It's just, there's a few people that kind of stand out collectively.
Give me a for instance.
My dad. He's another kind of guy, kind of like a Jason. Like the dude is he's a very solid person. through and through. Like, you don't see that type of quality in a lot of people, and he's extremely giving. He's patient, but he taught me what strong will is, what you can make from yourself. Like, he came from nothing, absolutely nothing. And
so what was his background then?
he grew up oldest of 6 boys in Pennsylvania. And this is in Wilkes-Barre, which is, it's kind of like lower in, I don't know, income, whatever, kind of Polish neighborhood.
Oh, Polish. I'm Polish. Right on.
There you go. So, they had stuff, but they didn't have much, and he ended up being really into art and was just an amazing artist, and then ended up going to school on a scholarship to Art Center out in California, and then started working, doing artist renderings for NASA, and then moved back home. He helped design the Little Caesars guy and just got into all this stuff. Then he started...
Oh, he helped design the logo for Little Caesars?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. He was actually offered like a part ownership thing when they were first getting started from Mike Ilitch, and he thought it was too much of a risk. Yeah. Dude doesn't live with many regrets either.
Now
but you better fucking believe that shit.
Now the arena's getting named after Little Caesars. Oh, yeah. Shit. All right.
So he was doing all that stuff in small design work. Then he started working in advertising and it was all car commercial stuff, and he was a creative art director, and he started traveling everywhere. He worked with the Sixth Beatle. He's been to every single continent, and just, he had been he worked in advertising for 30 some years, and advertising is a young person's game, because it's trying to keep things current and
fresh. Yeah.
And that dude, if he worked in that job for 32 years, then you better believe he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But he came from, down here and made it all on his own, and that is, so that's a pretty good dude to have as a dad.
So then my follow-up to that is, of all the lessons he ever taught you in your life, if they were all locked away except for one lesson that he taught you, you didn't know any of those other things, what is the one lesson that he taught you that you would want to stick with you forever?
You can do anything you want if you want to. Big time. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. As much as he would always give me dad advice and say, you need to really plan for your future and all that shit, which he is totally right. He is also at the forefront of, like, you got to follow your passion. That's what I did. That's what your brother does. That's what your sister does. It's...
What do they do?
My brother's a photographer, and my sister is a costume designer.
Right on.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, and they've made themselves, a job, a career, being creative and doing what they wanted to do. So it's, you don't really get that kind of, a lot of people don't get that sort of support from your family.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And I mean, and I'm not saying that they were always like 100% behind me, because there's been some times where they were scared for me, for sure. But you don't get that kind of support. A lot of people don't, and I definitely would not be here doing what I'm doing if I didn't have. Well, no, fuck that. I still would be.
Yeah, good.
I totally would.
Good.
That's a cop out.
Right on, man. What you laugh a lot, but what makes you laugh?
Educated humor, something that takes you a minute to think about it, like, or those just like really great one-liners that you're just like, dude, that is a fucking hell yeah. Yeah, no, I like something that you got to think about as much as it's kind of fun to have the immediate impact shit. I like that. When somebody really can put a situation into a funny fucking perspective, even if it's like from an asshole perspective. I think that shit's great.
Do you watch stand-up comedy at all?
Oh yeah.
Who's one of your favorites then?
Chris D'Elia is one of my favorites. I mean, hilariously enough, even though it's kind of totally against what I just said, Kevin Hart, for some reason,
He's hysterical,
I really
dude.
fucking love him.
He's hysterical.
Yeah.
That's another guy that he willed himself into where he's at. And dude, and you know, obviously he's got a fucking Napoleon complex.
Yeah.
You know, all short people do. Sorry, short people, you have a Napoleon complex. And it's because you're trying to rise above, but you have the right to rise. Anyway, no, but I'm bummed. No, Kevin Hart's great.
Yeah, and then obviously the old dudes, Richard Pryor and fucking Eddie Murphy, all that.
Sure.
I mean, you know, that shit's just
Right on.
timeless.
What makes you cry?
I don't know.
Bullshit.
Not much, but when it does, it's a fucking thing.
Full force.
Yeah, and that it rarely happens too. But yeah, I guess when you have people that are close to you that you know, betray your trust, or you know, you've got an idea of something that you wanted with somebody, and then it's just, you know, they didn't have that same mindset even though they said they did. That I hate saying betrayal, but just like it feels that way.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't feel like I'm the type of person that would ever give anybody a reason to do that to me anyway, let alone somebody I really care about.
Right.
So that shit makes me cry.
I can empathize.
Yeah, and I can shrug shit off all day long, especially with whoever. But yeah, in that small ring of people, yeah, that hits me.
Tell me about a time when you were truly suffering, and what did you learn from it?
I was senior in high school, and it was just, you know, when you're in high school, it's the time where you try a lot of shit and do whatever.
Right on. Not for me. I waited until I was in my 20s. I was too much of a goody two-shoes.
Yeah, see, I stopped when I was in my 20s, or at least, like, I grew up with kids that were years older than me, so I was trying all that shit, like, well before I should have anyway.
Sure.
But I'm glad I did it, because it actually gave me a really good perspective on life. Instead of me waiting and then trying when, you know, I was older and then potentially getting wrapped up in all that shit. I got wrapped up in it when I was young and still had time to fucking recover and do something else.
And that's an argument. That's an argument actually for doing what Europe does, where you can drink at 15 years old or whatever, and it's like you get all that crap out of your system when you're a little kid, you know, a kid, and it's exactly what you're saying, because they grow up and they're not like that.
Yeah, and I've seen some people deal with it the right way, but I've seen a lot of people not. And a lot of great people where it was like, you know, when we first year in college and you would come back and this person that was, you know, fucking sweetheart is now just some drunken bimbo that is going to drop out of college. It's like, right. But yeah, all the same. I was in high school senior year and I was just doing a lot of stupid shit. Just doing it because I could. I always did well in school no matter what. So I just was fucked up all the time, I feel like. And just kind of had that one day where it all hit me in the face and it was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is really stupid. You're not even, you know, what the fuck? Like, you know, I can barely recall a lot of shit from that year because it was just this long line of just, you know, being fucked up. So it was like that one day, and it was my mom, I think. She was like, you don't have to do this anymore. And she had said that a million fucking times, but for some reason it actually set in. And then from that point on, it was like music saved the day, that's for damn sure, because I started playing more and, you know, that got my head back in the right place, got me motivated, and definitely, I don't want it to sound more than what it is, but I would wonder if I would be around today if I didn't, you know, kind of get out of that shit, or if I was still around, I feel like I'd be a big old piece of shit.
Okay.
So
So what did you learn from going through that experience then?
I mean, you literally, it breaks you down. You are nothing, and you have to build it all back up again. And you've got support and friends and family and whatever, and you definitely need that. But at the same time, the only way you're really going to change or do it the right way is if you do it yourself. So again, it was the same thing as from going to Berkeley. It was like, you know, you can, I don't know how to say it, but like it all comes down to you. And I saw after that experience, it was like, dude, I can do it. I can do whatever the fuck I want if I want to. Like I was in a shithole and now I'm, back up to where I am. I'm going to school. I'm happy. Like,
Right.
And that's.
Did you have to make a social circle change?
Or
was it all really kind of just you doing your own thing and then you realize, wait a minute, I'm just really fucking my life up?
Sort of, but this was all coming around right at the end of high school. So I was like, that was going to happen anyway.
Sure.
Because I ended up moving to a city where I didn't know a single person.
Right.
And then, I still had the same circle of friends, but, some of them did what I did, smartened up, did their shit. Other ones, kind of went away, and they got pushed farther and farther away.
Sure,
for sure.
My next question is going to be what would you say is up until now the defining moment in your career and also in your personal life? I don't know if that's the same situation, but what would you say is the defining moment of your career till now?
Defining moment. Shit. I don't know. I guess.
How about your proudest moment? Not even necessarily
proudest
defining.
Moment?
Yeah.
Proudest moment would be after our show in Paris the last time we were in Europe. That was, without a doubt, the greatest show I think I've ever played. But the crowd was 3,000 people from start to finish. It was that cliche thing where they're like stomping and cheering before we even got on stage. And when we got on there, it was like we were like actual rock stars, and I'm not saying that like rock stars.
No.
But it was like, holy shit, dude.
You felt adored.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything because they're so loud. And they knew the songs, and it was literally from the front of the stage up to the back of the balcony, and there's video. Everybody's got their fucking hands in the air. They're all cheering. It's like, I got off the stage and I was like, holy shit. I don't know if that'll ever happen again. And if it doesn't, cool. But that is awesome. That's enough like good shit for me to sustain for years just thinking about that fucking show. I could have shitty shows for months and months, and I'd be like, dude, well, maybe we'll get one of those guys back in there, and then I'll be good for another couple of years.
That's great.
Yeah, man.
What about your personal life? Proudest moment?
Proudest moment?
I know music's personal to you, and the show is probably personal to you, but still.
Personal, I would probably say graduating from Berkeley.
Right on.
Definitely, yeah.
Is that because of all the hard work you had to put in and the humility? Not humility, like not like you were humiliated, but you were humbled.
No. Oh, yeah.
And all the, coming from where you were when you first showed up, like, oh shit, I thought I knew some shit and I don't know anything, really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I learned more in those 4 years than, I'll probably learn in the next 40.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're having to expose yourself to everything at a school like that. And your weaknesses are definitely going to come out, and it's a matter of whether or not you can deal with it and want to learn, even though you're shitty about it, or you just kind of brush it off. Yeah, that definitely proudest moment, because the dropout rate for the first year of students there is 50%.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, so and I definitely, would have been one of them in one way or another, but I didn't want to be.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest advice you've ever received? And how did you utilize it?
Biggest advice. I can't really zero in on a single like one single moment, but overall, I've gotten a lot of really great advice from my brother. He's 8 years older than I am, and he knows, my growing up situation, better than anybody because he's,
he was there.
He was there, yeah. So, and he was also, kind of had the same thing that I did. He fucked around a lot when he was younger and blah, 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 blah. And so when I'm 18 years old, 17, 16 years old, and he's, in his mid-20s, he's like, dude,
different
I
perspective.
know you're going to have fun. Fuck yeah, I went out and had fun. I probably had more fun than you did, whatever. But one day you're going to realize, and, so it was a series of conversations like that definitely, that had the biggest impact on me, for sure.
Right on.
Yeah.
Define success.
Happiness.
Define happiness for you.
I can't describe it. It's just a feeling. I feel it that I don't know how to put that into words, I guess.
You feel happy every day?
No.
Good.
Definitely not.
You feel happy most of the time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Cool. What makes you most happy when you're out on the road with Wilson?
Oh, man. I suppose it's those moments where all five of us are in a room together and we're laughing, just having fun. It's not talking about what to do for the next show or, what any one of the number of fucking things that, band stuff. Just hanging out. Everybody's having fun, genuinely laughing. That shit's awesome.
Right on. What's next for Wilson? What's on the agenda?
We've been writing. We started writing the week after we finished Right to Rise, so we've been writing that whole time. But we're making some broader strides to get a lot of songs together and start planning out for the next record. We heard that they're gonna exercise a second option with our label, so but the deal is like this record. We have a lot of reservations with the last one.
Okay.
A lot of great things came out of it, obviously.
Right.
But we learned a lot of what not to do.
Sure.
And since it was our first time doing it, that's the way she fucking goes. But now that we have this opportunity, it's like, okay, we get a chance to do it again. Now let's do it not the right way, but now let's do it with the knowledge and experience that we have.
Take what you know, apply it to what you don't know, figure it out.
There you go. Yeah. So that's definitely the big plan in the immediate future. Don't have anything hammered out as far as who we're working with or where we're going, but we're still home till I think September-ish. We might be heading out again. So we're doing all these small trips up north to do writing sessions and all this other stuff. So
Are you going like a cabin or something?
Yeah, we do like an Airbnb at a house for a couple of days. Like we went up to Port Austin a couple of weeks ago and just got a house, fucking sat in there for 3-4 days and just wrote.
Sure.
Which I love.
Right
on. So yeah, we'll be doing a couple more of those. I think we actually do one next weekend.
I'm safe in assuming you guys are playing Dirt Fest or no?
Yeah,
Okay, right
we
on.
are. So that should be interesting. Definitely happy that it's in Pontiac and not all the way
Bertrand.
out. Yeah.
Where is it happening at the Crowfoot facility? Basically?
It's in the parking lot, and then I think they're actually using the ballroom
Right
too,
on.
which cool.
Yeah. Right on. So here, I guess I only have a couple more questions, like seriously, but to that point, you're talking about exercising a second option and the next record and stuff like that. Rock and roll and the genres that fall under the umbrella of rock and roll isn't doing as hot as like, pop and country and stuff like that. Now, here's the thing. I understand, though, how pasteurized and homogenized a lot of that music is, and it's supposed to satiate the masses and all that stuff. And there still is a very loyal, especially in metal. Metal is thriving, okay? And you guys are bridging that metal rock style. However, with that being said, albums and a collection of songs aren't. I hate saying selling, but they're not selling the way that and being streamed the way that singles are.
Not.
So it feels like if you look at a guy like Drake, and I'm not forget style of music, just talk about approach to working. He's coming out with something new, every month. People are a designer. He has that Panda song. He just dropped a song yesterday or the day before that's already polarizing people's opinions. Anyway, but it's this constant creation, this constant put it out there, and then drop an album. Does your record label have? I hate saying the word control because no one wants to feel controlled, but do they have the final veto power as to when you release what, when, and how it is released?
To a certain point, yeah.
Because I could be wrong, but I feel as though if I was running a band today, okay, if I had a band, all right, and we, you guys say, you started writing when Right to Rise was done, and that got finished spring or summer last year?
A year ago.
Yeah, okay, and you started writing back then. You haven't released a new song since then. Why not put out a single here and there? Why not do a fucking Christmas song? Why not throw some of that stuff out there? And not only that, not trying to change, and this is just me talking. We're just talking.
Yeah.
But not trying to change who Wilson is and what they're about, but doing a single and not having to put it in the middle of an album, an overall arching narrative or work. You can explore different musical territories, and do some different things, because I hear the growth from Full Blast Fuckery to Right to Rise. I'm wondering how you're going to grow more.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Because, especially with you coming from the drumming, when you rattled off the drummers, first of all, you got an unknown local drummer.
Yeah.
You got James Brown's drummers and Questlove.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not exactly, whatever his name is from August Burns Red or Chris Adler from Lamb of God.
All great drummers too, but
right, but they're not who moved you or who shaped and informed your playing. And I feel as though there's you have a lot more colors on your artistic palette than what you have been doing currently with Wilson. Do you want to expand Wilson's musical palette further, or is that something that you are encouraging in the band? Is that something that the band is talking about? And if not, how do you stay true to your roots as a drummer and as a musician for yourself? Are you doing any other projects?
That's all that playing that I'm doing up at the Space is my release to be able to play whatever I want, and I'll jam with dudes here and there, all different kinds of music. No like project shit, but just fucking around just to do it. So it allows me to take my musical shit and do what I want, experiment when I want, and then when it comes to Wilson, there's ways of bringing in small things here and there, but it's an interesting question because I like the idea of a band evolving their music doubly so, and that's the way it should be. If you're making the same record every time over and over again, like that's part of the reason. That must suck,
That is one of the major reasons that I had the falling out with Coffin Cats, is because the last album that I had produced with them, Born of the Motor, I thought, and this is before I even joined the band, I thought that was going to be the album that finally broke them into a mainstream consciousness. If their record label pushed it right, they could have had. There's a few songs off that album that could easily have been on the radio.
Yeah, it
didn't happen. The label didn't push it right. They knew it. And then when it came time to talking about the direction that they wanted to go for the next album, they talked about wanting to go back and record it with the original guy that did their first 3 albums and write songs that were more in that vein. And I'm like, you want to go back to 2003?
Yeah.
The world has moved on, man. You're and your music has grown. The production level has grown, the songwriting, the arrangements, the craftsmanship. But they wanted to go backwards. And I feel like a lot of the old dead legends are doing just that. They're doing these reunion tours where they're playing their first album or their first 2 albums that everyone knows because the new shit isn't any fucking good.
Yeah, and it seems like it's more like a money grab than anything else.
Goddamn right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that you want to expand.
Yeah, I mean it's got to evolve. I mean, to be honest though, there's also an attitude and a kind of brand that I see Wilson as. And, you know, it's supposed to be fun, angry, this, that, or whatever. But I don't really see the band as a platform to maybe, like, you know, write sad songs about loving women and people, this, that, you know, which, you know, it is what it is.
Wilson has a vibe.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit in that vibe, that's cool.
Then it's,
I totally get that. I'm just wondering, you know, what kind of growth there's.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to know that it, you know, I'm sure that some of the other guys feel the same way, but it's nice to know there's one guy in the band that wants to expand.
Yeah. I mean, you've always got to push. You've got to try something different. You've got to try something you've done before. You've got to do all of it. And the end result is trying to come up with a really great record that you believe in. Every last song. That's my end result. So the specifics of getting there, or what song might sound like, you know, oh, it sounds like it came off of Full Blast, or this song sounds like it was Right to Rise, or what the hell is this?
Right.
I've never even heard. You know, whatever. You know,
you want to be able to play your own record and not skip a track.
Yeah, there's not the premeditation, or I'm trying to not have there be that premeditation of like, let's do something that's like this or reminiscent of this, or, you know, whatever.
Sure.
Let's do a fucking great record, and that's that.
Right on.
Boom. Whatever that means, whatever, even if it turns into 10 songs that are talking about dick and fart jokes. If it's a great record and I love it, then I could fucking care less.
Right on, man. You got to please yourself first.
Yeah, that's all I've really ever wanted as a musician anyway. You know, as great as it is to connect with people, play with people, have fans, which is really weird. Really weird. You know, that shit is awesome. And I guess it was something that I always wanted, but that is all completely secondary to feeling great about the music,
about your stuff.
Yeah.
Right on.
And that's all I want.
Real quick, where can people find you and reach you then, if they want to get to you or the band?
Back alley of Little Caesars in Pontiac. What?
Which your dad does not have any ownership.
No, he
in.
does not. Shit, man. Are we talking like social media?
Yeah, social media. Yeah. What, WilsonParties.com? What is it?
Wilson
is a band?
Wilson Party Animals.
WilsonIsABand.com?
And Wilson is a band. And yeah, I'd probably just put in.
Just Google Wilson Band. It'll probably come up.
Wilson Party stuff.
And I guarantee if you Google Matt Puhy, you'll be able to find Matt Puhy. I 100% guarantee it. All right, last question, because we got to get out of here. I'm going with my dad to see Beethoven's First Symphony tonight.
Oh, nice.
What advice do you have for those listening who have a passion and want to get after it?
I mean, if they have a passion for it, a true passion, then I don't really need to give them advice. They know what they want to do. They just have to do it.
I tell people that all the time. You know in your heart what you really want to do.
Yeah, man.
So get after it.
Yeah. You know, it's get used to no. You know, get used to the word no. Don't be afraid to fucking fail. You've got to fall on your face in order to, like, you know, it's got to have everything up, down, left, right. It's got to be shitty in order for it to be good. Don't be discouraged. You just, like, if you really want it, then fucking go out there and get it.
Or be discouraged and quit, and that's fine, because that means I move up in line.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Jay Leno once said, you know how you make it as a stand-up comedian? Don't stop. Don't stop. Mm-hmm. And everyone who quits and gets out of line, now that's one more place that you are up ahead in the head of the line.
Yep, and that's definitely a way to consider it. Absolutely. you know?
So,
but yeah, no, just do it. Stand behind what you believe in. If you want to do that, then do it.
Right on.
Don't fucking talk about it. Don't dream about it. Do all that, but then back it up and do it.
Right
you know,
on.
A lot of people are too scared to just get out there and try. I know, because I'm that way with certain things, but that's just going to leave you as an older person thinking back and wondering what the fuck if, and I do not want to do that.
Right on, man. Matt Puhy, thank you so much, dude.
Thank you. This was awesome.
This has been a fun time.
Absolutely.
And I learned a lot I learned a lot about you. I try not to come into these with preconceived notions, and if I had any, you blew them out of the water, dude. I'm really stoked that we got to do this.
Absolutely, me too, man.
Awesome.
This really was awesome.
Awesome. All right, man. Until next time.
Oh, I hope so. I'd like it.
Thank you for listening to Get After It with me, John Kay. If you enjoyed what you heard in this episode, please share it across your social media platforms. Word of mouth is huge. I'd love to hear what resonated with you from this episode, so please send an email to getafterit@therealjohnk.com. That's the REALJOHNKAY.com. And tell me what you liked or tell me what you didn't like, because feedback is the breakfast of champions, and breakfast is the most important meal of the morning. We're going to get the podcast on iTunes. It's going to happen, and I'm attending a webinar soon on how to make the podcast even better for everyone. The next installment of Get After It will feature Danny Methrick, also known as Danny Muggs, from Detroit blues rock band The Muggs, who were featured on Fox Television's The Next Great American Band. Had a real great conversation with Danny, and I think you're really going to enjoy it too. But until then, you get after it.